That's fucking awesome.
What do you think about this?
Sure.
What if Twitter and
Dumbass.
like let's say let's just use Twitter. What if Twitter had like a wall of shame, which is like
Oh no! Are
Dude,
you
this
gotta
is
be
like-
joking.
wait.
All
Let
right,
me
yeah, go ahead.
hear me out.
Action. Welcome to What Does It Even Mean? I'm Matt. Jim. I mean Vince. Well, yeah.
I'm Vince.
I know.
That's
I looked
Jim.
at
I'm
you. I
Jim.
said Jim and Vince. Let the record show. We'll go back in the video.
We're laughing because we've realized we've done 3 podcasts and not introduced ourselves, but referred to each other with our first names. So yeah, I'm Jim or Jimmy,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call me.
I'm Vince or Vinny, whatever you want to call me.
It's interesting now because we're like talking to like another person, like the camera's another.
Yeah,
person.
we gotta forget it's
like an
there in
ad-
a second.
Yeah, it's an added
but,
dynamic.
yeah,
It's
gotta
interesting.
we gotta
Yeah.
forget it's there. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't want to be the one to start talking about anything because I think it's good that we start with local things, and I'm in doom and gloom mode. So
Oh,
Why are you in doom and gloom mode?
we'll get there.
I'm interested.
We'll
All
get
right,
there.
Sure.
So you guys
I
talk
kinda am
about
too, but-
reality.
Had a great St. Patrick's Day.
I did too.
yes, you
I
did.
actually
It
ended
was
up at
lovely.
McGeary's. That's where I went.
Where the fuck is that?
It was near you.
McGeary's is the bar we tried to go to, Matt.
When?
Your friends kept calling you, going, "Hey, meet us at McGeary's."
Really?
Yes.
I was too drunk to
Yeah.
I had a great
process
day.
that. That's good. Really? I don't remember getting calls from my friends. I remember most of the night.
That's
I
a
thought.
sign of a good St. Patty's Day.
It was awesome, man. I had a great time.
Where did you
I
guys
did
go?
naughty things that I won't mention on the podcast. We went to PSP, Pearl Street
Nice.
Pub. I got on the stage. That was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Mine was way more boring.
He was with that.
I hung out with him for a
for
little
like
while.
5 minutes. And
Socialized,
then, yeah.
but I just didn't have the stomach to drink yesterday, so I was like,
We started at like 11 a.m.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Went till midnight.
Dude.
It was a long
went
day.
till midnight?
Went
Yeah.
till midnight.
Dude, I was in
mean,
bed by 11. It was awesome.
I'll be honest. I was driving, so I didn't drink that much. You know,
That's good,
I kind of got a little drunk and then
And then
sobered up.
sobered
Drove
up,
to
yeah.
Troy, started drinking again, sobered up. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Responsible.
my brother and my sister and them were
Is your family all from Troy?
ish.
Ish, the area.
Yeah.
Do you guys all hang out together?
Yeah, we did yesterday.
Do you guys usually do that? I mean, it seems like you're at your family's house.
Well,
Often.
that a lot of that's because my brother just moved home.
Okay.
So
From where?
you know, it's kind of he was living in Pittsburgh, but he's been all over the place.
Pittsburgh. Oh, word. Okay.
Pittsburgh is a great town.
Dude,
I
seems fucking cool.
I highly recommend visiting that town. Actually, I was just talking about this. When I was there, we went to this really cool bar with a giant shark in it. And it was at the
like
end
a
of
real
That's
shark.
No.
Oh,
And,
Good
and
giant tank.
it
throw
was the end of
people
a
in there.
very good day, and I was
Yeah.
just like saying, man, Pittsburgh's fucking awesome.
Uh-huh.
And the bartender goes, yeah, don't tell anybody. And I was like, that's a good rule. Don't tell
That's
anybody
awesome.
because that's
Yeah.
why it's so cool.
You're like, shut the fuck up.
So I'm
about
breaking that rule. I'm telling everybody.
it. Yeah. All of our viewers. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I definitely Anthony Bourdain went there and Parts Unknown, and it looked really excellent. There was a guy. It's like the Rust Belt, man. Like that whole area of like going to school in Buffalo, especially, you appreciate like that whole area. You see all the derelict buildings, like the once immense amount of wealth. Like I've looked this up too, like Buffalo in that area, like Rochester, Cleveland. In the 1920s, 1930s, when steel was booming and like the grain was still coming through the Midwest, these were top 10 populations in the country, and they've just dropped massively. Like Pittsburgh had like 1 million plus people, and now there's like 300,000 around there. Buffalo was like 600,000, top 20, and like I don't know, it's not GDP, but like whatever the financial measurement of a city's producing was like top 10 in the country as well. Like these cities were once massive, it's crazy, and now they're just, I mean, they're not shells of what they were, but they definitely were at some point. Now they're kind of reinvigorating. I felt like the same. I don't know if you can speak to this, but like a sense of like entrepreneurship and artsiness too, and
there's a lot of that in
yeah.
Syracuse because there
Yeah.
used to be a lot of industry in Syracuse,
Exactly.
both in tech, semiconductors,
Mhm,
production.
mhm. Yeah.
Obviously, the first big industry there was salt mining.
Yeah.
And you know, past half a decade or so, maybe a little bit longer, there have been a lot of businesses just repurposing all of that land and all of those
Yeah.
old factories
Yeah.
that nobody uses
Yeah.
anymore. And they're like
Yeah.
they're productive and cool businesses.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's everything
real.
like digital marketing to like printing
Mhm.
T-shirts or something, you know, cute like that, or like there's 1,001 microbreweries too. But
Tons of breweries.
There's,
like,
there's
it's
lots
cool.
of businesses
Yeah.
at places where there used to be no business.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy has that going for it too.
For
because
sure,
Troy
for
was
sure.
one of the like the biggest city. It was one of the biggest ports in the country for a while. Like
Really?
I forget like when it was,
a
but
specific
basically,
reason or like a specific
it's,
product or
it's the last port. The Hudson
before,
connects to the
Erie Canal to the
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
like
yeah.
I forget how many, but basically everyone's shirt collars came from here.
Oh yeah,
the country.
It's called the Collar City, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's called the Collar City.
And
made all the collars.
Yeah, and it had its definite downfall. You know, it took a long. It was a slow downfall, unlike like the Rust Belt or these coal mining
like 10
towns.
Years,
because
10, 20,
I think it's
30
probably
years.
because we have so much government here. So there's a lot of money to prevent it from getting too bad.
It's stable. Yeah, there's always going to be
so
a government.
Like kind of slowly went down, and then it got real bad, and now it's on its way up. But yeah, Pittsburgh is really cool like that. One day, me and my brother went to an oyster bar in Pittsburgh, and we were sitting there, and we were just drinking, having some oysters, and we were talking to this couple, and it turned out they were the owners.
Nice.
And and the guy's a chef, I think, and it was a really cool conversation talking about how the building they wanted to incorporate what was there, make it new, but not ignore the past. You know, there's a little bit of that's why people like exposed bricks right now, right? Rather than covering it up. It's like, see?
Beautiful. Yeah.
But it's true. Like there's something nice about exposed brick, and I think it's some part of our psychology kind of going, we tried the whole drywall over everything and it didn't work. The drywall, fell apart.
Being surrounded by human beings being surrounded by white walls, like the only other place people do that is insane asylums.
That's
like,
a good point.
It's so dumb. And bricks, like to your point, it's earthy. It's literally dirt packed together with like cement. And I think
that's true. It's got history to it too.
Yeah,
it lasts.
Exactly.
Everything in like the 80s and 90s was not built to last. It was built to fall apart.
Dude, people like I don't get how people like what the fuck were people thinking in the 70s, 80s, and 90s building shit. They're like, this is gonna look good for maybe 3 years, and then it's gonna look awful.
Cheap.
I guess, man. Dude, like Buffalo looks like it literally looks like all the dorm buildings and all the buildings. University at Buffalo looks like a giant toddler just threw Legos around. Like they're all like these big, blocky, weird fucking, and they're just scattered. It looks so fucking weird.
This is
not beautiful.
This is perfect. I went to the cathedral in Albany today. I went for a baptism. You ever been in there? It's beautiful.
Gorgeous,
building,
man.
Right? Okay, so
gorgeous,
do you know the story of the plaza?
No.
So the plaza, the sort of, I don't know what you would call it. The story of it. It's probably not true. Is
history?
That Nelson Rockefeller, when he was the governor, he looked out his window, and I forget who was coming to visit, and he's like, "This can't be here. I want something beautiful."
Nice.
And it seems nice, but it was like the most expensive thing. It went way over budget, and they destroyed a small Italian town. It was like this,
I've heard about that.
like working class Italian, and I was like,
gentrification.
I am in a Roman Catholic cathedral, right next to where an Italian neighborhood was that disappeared, and it's I'm sorry, but objectively the most beautiful building in that area. It absolutely is. Like all of those other buildings are modern. I guess they look neat from the highway.
I don't know,
but
they look like
that's the problem is that they look really great from far away. Then you get on the plaza and you're like, this is.
Have you been in the the concourse on the inside? I've described
like
it like
underground.
this.
Underground.
No,
it's creepy.
It's what it is an airport that doesn't go anywhere.
It's
like
great. It is a beautiful analogy.
You go in and there's like little places for things. It feels like you should be going through security to be in there, but nothing's in there.
Yeah.
They're starting to put some stuff in there. They do a little farmer's market in the winter and like, they do some stuff. But
it's weird. It's like it wasn't built for fucking humans, man.
Right.
They're like,
it wasn't.
It's such a strange thing. Like I don't understand.
That period in history has. There are people who study architecture. That made there are people who study architecture.
Are you sure, man?
That have opinions about this. But like there was this whole idea, like in the during the 50s, the onset of the Cold War, the whole point was that people were building monolithic architecture to try and represent the state, and that's why they chose.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say. It looks like 1984. Like it looks like. I mean, the book is not like animated,
no, you're
but
right.
Like the descriptions of the building, like you could see how there would be war, would be peace, and like things like that. Those buildings are huge. Monolithic, like they dominate the skyline, dominate the entire city. They're not beautiful. They're just strong, fucking nondescript, powerful. Like they're phallic. They're phallic in nature.
You just nailed it.
Giant.
It's funny. I was just talking about this.
Weird.
That I've worked downtown Albany for like 6 or 7 years, and I walk there all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember walking there one time. I was just looking at these buildings, like these fucking things look like Transformers. They look
Seriously,
like they're
bro.
waiting. It looks like a hand, like this. This is the Corning Tower, and there's the 4 little ones.
It does.
And
It's
looks
like
like
gonna grip
it's like
the city.
the second that you humans go too far, I'm gonna fucking come out and kill you. And that's
You're gonna fucking eat all.
right,
And, like,
it doesn't
grab all
look.
the
It
humans,
doesn't
eat it in one
look
handful.
human. It doesn't
No,
look
dude,
human.
it looks like I was thinking this today. I took a walk today, and I was like, "This looks like spaceships. Like they look like spaceships that, like, if the humans fuck up, we're gonna blast out of here."
I hate to use this buzzword, but remember when Trump was running a couple of years ago, he was making accusations that the deep state was trying to take him down.
Dude, seriously.
If the deep state exists anywhere, it's in those 5
Albany,
buildings.
New York.
Oh, I feel like,
it's
I'm
so
not
weird.
supposed to talk about this because I've worked there so long. I had to go to this room in the bottom of core 4. I think I don't know if
They're
I'm
called
allowed.
cores.
They're called cores.
Jesus.
Like they have
It's
nuclear
so
in them.
creepy, man.
But
They're
I
like
went there
hives.
and we had just hired this guy who was working for me. And he's really good, really talented guy. He'd seen a lot of stuff. He's a young guy, and we go into this room and it's like, it looks like this is where the decision is made if the bomb's gonna drop. Like it's like raised. There's glass. There's screens everywhere. It's very dark. Everything's black painted, but it's bright in there, and it just looked crazy.
What is it for?
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
They torture people?
Honestly, it's probably just they had a budget one year and they were like that's the real.
Oh yeah,
reason
like I
is-
believe that.
Yeah, it's more. I think it's more likely that they were like, yeah, we got an extra couple $1 million here, and if we don't spend it,
It
Oh
happens,
yeah,
then we're gonna
no,
lose
that's how
Yeah.
government finance
so
works.
let's make a
Yeah.
really cool looking
Scary.
room that should be for
It
a
looks
movie
like
that'll never
Star
happen.
Wars. Huh.
Yeah.
Dude, that's really interesting. Yeah, because like people do like that's what the architect's job is to like think about. Obviously, they get input from the state, but if you look at like the state building right on the other side, and I don't know what the building is right next to it, but they're very like classical federal style, have lovely architecture. Like I've been to Europe, I've been in many gorgeous near many gorgeous cathedrals, not as many as I would like to have, but that architecture is fucking beautiful. Like it's like wow, even though it's like a state building. And I was actually thinking this today. The eagles on there kind of look like Nazi eagles. A little disconcerting.
Oh boy.
But not to go like conspiracy theorists or anything, but like all Eddie Bravo.
Well,
But-
wasn't those buildings erected way before the?
Yeah,
Third
they
Reich?
were. There's like the
gotcha.
1800s
that
or
was-
something. But it's gorgeous. Like my point is like that's way more gorgeous than like people had the foresight to actually like hey, this building's gonna last a fucking while. What do we want to make it look like? And then I don't know what were they thinking when they made those things? Because it does like what were they trying to impose upon people? It looks like
Just general art school.
but it looks like
Memory.
domination, man.
Yeah.
Like it's
I'm
so
sure they-
unimaginative.
Sure, they knew that.
I know, like right,
Well,
like they
there's-
had to
there's
have known
some-
it.
When you get
Strange.
you reach a certain
We are
point in
the
like
Empire
post
State.
you reach a certain point in postmodernist art history
Yeah,
where the
it's
art
just
becomes
like-
less to do with the form and more to do with the essay that is you're supposed to read with the art, and it does not apply very well to art.
Dude,
architecture at
there's
all.
tons of like modern or contemporary art
Yeah.
around the plaza, and it's just fucking stupid. It looks like a 6-year-old made it.
Yeah.
It's like wow, there's like a yellow rectangle that kind of twists.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
hate that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
word, cool. How
I
long
hate
did
it.
that take? Like fucking 10 minutes. There's no disrespect to the artist who made that if he ever did it. Well, I mean, we could talk about it. You know, like
These are kind of my thoughts. I was sitting
Yeah.
in this beautiful cathedral. I've been there a couple
Yeah.
times. You walk in, and this place puts you in awe. I mean, you understand
Seriously.
why it was built the way it was. It was designed to make you think of things greater than yourself.
dude, it
No
really
one,
does.
everyone
too.
looks small in a
Yeah.
church. Everyone. I was taking pictures, and I was like, these like I have to make sure everybody looks as small as they are in here, like
yeah.
because the ceilings are just so
Massive.
high, and
Yeah.
they're clearly like directing to God. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
It's
And
and
people built that thing without cranes.
it's, right.
Dude, and it took like
Without
hundreds of
hard
years
hats.
too,
It's
man.
built in 1840 something. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Dude, they're still building the cathedral in Barcelona. It started in like the fucking, I don't know, like 1500s, 1300s, something like that. And it's going to take another 300 years to finish. Like, what kind of fucking planning is that? Like, that's amazing. We don't have that. Like, so much of society nowadays does not have that foresight to be like, oh, we look at like quarterly reports, like, and things like that, like semesters.
Do you guys
3 months.
Do you guys ever go to like a mass or a service every
Uh-huh.
every once in a while?
Yeah.
I do it. Just
I went
'cause,
2
like, it's
Sundays
like-
ago at the cathedral. I was just, need a little Jesus in my life.
It helps. It helps me. And today when I was
Yeah.
sitting there and I'm watching all these people and there's kids and like I'm watching the kids because kids are interesting.
Yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
like there's this understanding there that kids are kids.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to get them to pay attention.
Yeah,
but
because
if
they all
can't-
fuck around. They
Right.
can't sit still. Yeah.
Right. And I'm
They're
watching,
babbling.
and I'm like, I imagine like Sam Harris being in there, like itching, like these poor children, they're not gonna understand what's going. But I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking this is more in line with evolution than science. In a lot of like, be careful of how I don't want to say that science is anti-evolution. Obviously not. I mean, the way that people are behaving in there. It's basically a whole group of people in a community get together to say, we're going to be our better selves, and everything is better that way. And we seem to succeed when we act as though there's a God watching us.
Absolutely.
That's the feeling I got while I was in there. And it's
100%.
that, like, that's where, if I could talk to Sam Harris, like, what are you going to replace that with? Like, what's going to be in that spot? I really want to know.
I don't follow Sam Harris in particular that much, but does he have just like a big gripe with all aspects of religion, or what is that?
Well, I mean, he'll talk to Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson about religion. He has learned to talk in a way that to communicate a little better. But I don't think he would argue with me that his ultimate goal would be that there would be no religion. Like he would like to see religion go away. He has like an order of which one he'd like to see them go away. But
so he also acts like everybody who's in a religion like is gonna follow it to the nth degree, like by the letter. Like when most people, which there are a bunch of fundamentalists, but they're usually the fucking small iota of like the most people who are like, yeah, I'm kind of Catholic, I'm kind of Jewish, I do it a little bit. We go to church on Sundays. Like it's a good, like to your point exactly. Like not only does the cathedral like inspire like a meditative state, because it's literally like you're surrounded by all these beautiful sculptures of Jesus and what he was going through, so you're like instantly instigated into contemplating that shit. The fucking ceilings, it's a direct attempt at man to like connect with divinity, and then so it does put you in this meditative state. And everybody gets there to like basically just sit there and meditate. Like I don't even listen to the priest half the time, because half the time they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, or they're just like babbling on about something. But sometimes they have good things to say. But like it's just a really amazing place that everybody is like, okay, yeah, we're gonna like once a week we're gonna work on being our best selves. So, and that's amazing.
Tell
I think
me
it's
if
a beautiful
this thought
thing.
makes sense to you.
Yeah.
I'm in this church, and the whole thing is everything is bigger than you. There are things, well, not everything. You know what I mean? Like there are things beyond you, bigger than you. There's
greater than
you're
self.
Part of something big and important, and it matters. Yeah. And then you leave, and you're right in the plaza, and all of the architecture there says, "We're the best. We don't need anything, because we're the empire." You know, like that's Dude, what I get from those. Like the empire. Like all of those buildings are basically, we don't need anything. Yeah. And then you go in the church and it's like you need a lot. You're like,
definitely. Yeah, dude. Like the state buildings have nothing to like say about the human condition. It's just like so sterile.
Except that maybe sometimes the human condition is very banal. And
yeah, dude. It's like it's sterile, banal, like fucking
everything you don't want to think about when you think about
like
government.
Barren, dude. Yeah, like it reminds me of like a barren, soulless. It gives you that vibe. Yeah. It looks like it could be on the Death Star, like in Star Wars. Yeah, like the Empire would fucking all live there.
The hell's that egg?
I don't know,
yeah,
dude.
it's so weird.
Yeah, the fucking
I
egg.
Understand.
Dude,
they have like concerts though.
Yeah,
that they do pretty well there, don't they?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Chris D'Elia just came here there Thursday.
Oh,
that's the one I do.
Kind of big comedian.
The egg's kind of neat, just because it's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking thing. We're gonna make it a fucking egg.
Strange looking.
Is it for acoustic reasons or is it like aesthetic?
I don't know.
It's probably acoustic. I imagine the acoustics would probably be pretty good.
I didn't even think of that.
I mean, it's.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a small theater too. It's like 200, 300 people, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I've never been inside.
I actually saw Deer Tick play there, and I was like, "This is not the venue for you. You guys are
my
too
God.
loud."
Jam band?
Not at all.
They're a loud band.
Yeah.
They're fun. I was like, "Man, you should be at the Hollow or something. Like this is like way too loud."
Can you
for
imagine
this space.
Deer Tick at the Hollow though?
What
They have played at the Hollow.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
What kind of music are they?
Rock,
redneck punk rock, but it's not nearly as cringy as how I just described.
It's great.
I'm imagining mullets and cut off like jean,
no.
Jean shirts.
I'll pass the baton. You start playing the song "The Bump" by Deer Tick on the jukebox and just get into it with all your buddies. Like it's just a fun song.
They're fun. That's a good way. It's
good,
fun.
Man.
Yeah.
I'll hold you to that.
Not like Coors Light and mullets fun. It's like redneck is like we like to hike in our spare time, kind of redneck.
Oh,
like
it's
we
like
actually
more country. That's
we
like
just
granola.
like country.
It's a little hippie.
Yeah, like hippie, the hippie country crossover. If there is one.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I can dig it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
for
a
sure.
little punk grunge in there.
Yeah.
Like
I think we all have that. I mean, we're upstate
like,
New Yorkers, so
yes,
like everybody has this weird like attachment to the outdoor. Like we're strange people. Like being upstate New York, like
No,
we have a lot of
I was
access
talking
to like
about
outdoors,
this to someone recently,
and that's baked into us.
Yeah,
I noticed it a lot, man.
You can kind of, and there's history behind this too that I know a little bit about. But it really is this weird political flavor that upstate New Yorkers have. That's in a lot of ways very socially conservative, but with this streak of environmentalism that doesn't normally overlap.
Dude, because we have the fucking Adirondacks.
We have the Adirondacks in their backyard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting, a lot of the history that the reason upstate New Yorkers think the way that they do, and the reason the economies have all synced up the way that they do. Like when we were talking about when Buffalo kind of became a shell of itself, and Syracuse had this decline in industry, and Utica obviously still has a lot of.
These are all like canal towns.
They declined a lot. They have a lot of work to do to make up for that. But the reason all those economies are synced together and the political spheres are synced together is because of the Hudson River.
Yeah,
that was built.
And the canal,
that's what I meant. So the Hudson
Well,
Canal.
they're both
the Erie
important.
Canal.
Yeah.
150, 60, 70 years ago, in the early 19th century, there's this thing called the Second Great Awakening, which was the
and that was a hub in upstate New York.
The American version of. Have I told you the story at all or not?
No, I know a little bit of.
Okay, that's good.
We are history
a lot
majors.
of people. Yeah, a lot of people really neglect the early 1800s in terms of the U.S. history because the Revolutionary War was exciting.
Yeah,
and
then the Civil War.
And Jefferson was exciting, and then everything in between that and the Civil War, people just kind of gloss over.
I love that part.
But
during the early
mistake.
Yeah, it's such a great time.
Because not understanding what caused the Civil War is exactly what we're paying the price for.
Oh
right
yeah,
yeah.
In the 1820s and 1830s, there is this period of time we call the Second Great Awakening, and it was when evangelicism, is that my saying that right?
Evangelicalism.
Evangelicism became a prominent religion in the United States. And I might get this wrong.
There's a bunch of them. They're like Shakers.
I'm not that good with my
Methodists,
my religious history, but I want to say it was towards the end of Calvinism, right? And that's like
1500. I mean, there was Calvinists around for sure. But,
well, they believed what was predetermination. They believed a lot in predeterminate. The idea that God kind of decided ahead of time whether or not you were going to heaven.
So you might as well not.
And I know the gist of it was right. Evangelists kind of believe that
you could be saved.
You can be saved through good deeds and through prayer
and through conversion. That's the main thing, because that's what people are like. Yeah, evangelicals, you're known for like.
But that's also
Jesus. Have you allowed Jesus in your life?
Right. Those
are evangelicals.
That preachy kind of
attitude. They're convergers.
They're
the people they're the guys like who go to the fucking islands. Who's that dude who just got shot by like 60 bow and arrows like a few months ago?
Oh,
those are the people. They're the fucking missionaries.
Yes, yeah. Well, they were also, but I mean, they were also it was very emotional and emotive.
The preachers.
It was like a performance. Yeah. And they had. They would get up on
sellouts,
stage and they would preach to people,
to thousands of people,
and that's the idea of the people would shake. And they'd say things like, "I want the devil to get out of you." And people would have these like almost like exorcism like.
Dude, they go into fits, speaking tongues.
Fits, yeah.
Ooh, there's one church that's like mostly big in the South now that's still like known for that.
Yeah,
some guy did a Vice piece on it like a few years ago.
But that was evangelicism.
Yeah,
and it was obviously big in the South because back then it was very easy to travel in the South. You hop on a ship, you go down each of the states, you hit the coast. You can travel inward a little bit if you want.
Yeah.
And there were a couple religious entrepreneurs that wanted to bring this to the northern states, and the easiest place to do that was to hop on a boat, go up the Hudson River, and then take the Erie Canal.
There you go.
So it is that religious mindset kind of stuck and created what we call the conservative streak of morals in upstate New York. But because upstate New York was obviously protected environmentally, there's this really weird overlap of like there's a lot of, I think that's why there's like a lot of libertarians, I think, and type people in upstate.
Okay,
I think I know. Well, I'm just back home thinking Syracuse.
I was just gonna say it. I feel like a lot of people.
It's kind of scrappy.
It's
scrappy, right? Yeah. It's like people want to be efficient, like environmentally efficient. And able to take care of themselves while using as little resources as possible. That's kind of like a reflection of.
And they want to be left alone. They want
to be left alone and reclusive and
But to your point about the religion part too, like that's a sign of kind of like openness. That's a weird fucking place too, because like all these religions, like in like 1800 to like 1840, Mormonism fucking started in Rochester.
Yes,
The Shakers, another fucking weird sect.
A lot of
like
that stuff came from upstate New
Yeah,
York.
dude. And these are multiple religions where it's allowed to, what's the it's polyamory, but it's well, dudes were having multiple wives. And polygamy. There we go. And then there's other one. Like there's tons of these sects, like probably 4, 5, 6 of these sects like popped up in fucking upstate New York. And then obviously Mormonism spread west. Shakers were kind of a lot of them like died out. They weren't that popular because they were weird, and people were like, you guys go live by yourselves. Or they were like, we're gonna go live by ourselves, because like New York State was so unpopulated, they could just go start their own towns. But that history, like that sense of like a spiritual transcendent devotion mixes with the nature of like the Adirondacks and just how fucking uninhabited it is. And if you want to like go back even further and probably trace this a little bit more, the Native Americans, they had a very I don't know how to say it, but like deep spiritualism in that area. And so like something, it's kind of like almost like there's something in the water, there's something in the land that like makes people like fucking, I don't know, get into God. It's fucking really interesting, man. And by looking at the nature, like by going to the top of a peak in the Adirondacks, you can kind of see why.
I've thought about that so many times. Right? You know, it's almost kind of like unfair that like I remember, the first time I hiked, Bald Mountain or something, one of those peaks, the high peaks in the Adirondacks, and I look out and I go like, it's unfortunate I've had geology classes, geography classes, and all that stuff, because I can't. Can you imagine, 400 or 500 years ago, seeing one of those and just like, and there were no buildings or no fire towers. You just got to the top of a peak and you saw endlessly.
I used to think about that all the time, like being a Native American and just like running around fucking barefoot, like when everything was untouched. Like how, man, like if I could trade lives probably like for like a day or two, like that's what I would be. Like I would just be like a fucking Iroquois hunter, just fucking sprinting around up here in the summertime. Dude, they fucked like whenever they want. Like, dude, they were such free people. Like I don't know, maybe I'm like being kind of like Adam and Eve, like there is a pure time, but they were like, they also had like intense wars where they tortured the fuck out of people.
You're right, but
like there was a village torturing.
Society was almost healthier doing that, because I think, no, seriously.
I get what you're saying. There's definitely healthier aspects to that. But there's also like more extreme aspects.
Psychiatrists have, and people who study psychology have measured, rates of mental illness, rates of suicide, and rates of homicide in cultures that are much less developed.
Okay.
And those rates are all lower in those cultures, and our estimations of how bad mental health problems were, how widespread they were in Native American societies, is that they were much lower.
Dude, because you're outside all the time fucking and hunting, or like doing, like you're just out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's to say, it was quote unquote hedonistic, and there certainly were wars.
I don't know.
But societies in and of themselves.
I wouldn't say it's hedonistic, because I mean they had to do a lot of. Like they had to plant, like they still had to think for the future. Like they.
Well, you're
like
right. Ron, I did. Maybe
I
have an improper.
It can still be hedonistic and
definition of the word hedonistic.
Like Dionysian cults, like for example.
Okay.
They have a very organized plan, but then their plan is to be hedonistic. Like
that's kind of how I am. I feel like I plan the most to be hedonistic.
I wanted to say something. You said societies are better that way, and I know what you meant. I know what you meant.
There's a lot of
that Andrew, whatever his name was, who was on Joe Rogan this week, Schultz. He said, he quoted George Orwell saying something like, every joke within every joke contains
a kernel of truth.
A tiny rebellion. So being allowed to joke around allows that part of you, like, because you do, you have like, if we don't have regular physical rebellions, something has to take its place.
Yeah, that energy has to go somewhere.
That has to go somewhere.
Dude,
so
100%.
Being able to joke about really repugnant shit is that little rebellion. Like Eminem, perfect example.
The rapper.
Right? Yeah. He's not a comedian, but he's saying like
wild
this real shit in him that he knows is awful. Like he's and he's saying it to say it. He's like, I can say this.
To express that energy.
Exactly.
Because it's going to go somewhere else.
That's why I'm so anti-censorship.
Yeah.
Because I do think the repercussions of stifling that need to say shit that offends people and bothers people, you stifle it and it becomes guns. Like it becomes real war.
Or self-destructive, dude. Like men, that's what, like, especially for like aggressive male energy, like when you stifle that, like men are like the leading people to commit suicide for a fucking reason.
It's a lot better for some people to be offended than for a lot of people to be dead. Like, it's just the way. I told you I'm in doom and gloom mode. The New Zealand shooting really fucked me up. Like, it really fucked me up. Like,
So
I read the manifesto. I've never read anything that evil in my life.
Dude, that's a lot, man. Yeah.
That really fucked me up. And it ties into so many things we've been talking about.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you want to, all right, can you just give me a play-by-play of, like, what happened? Because I saw it in the news. Like, I saw headlines, but I didn't really look into it too much.
I'll give very serious spark notes. And I do think, I will say this. I do like this trend, like Ben Shapiro. You don't use the guy's name.
Yeah.
You don't post the video.
I agree.
Like, I have resisted going to look at it, but I know people who have seen it. And
There's a video? They filmed it?
Oh, they live streamed it, motherfucker. This is a real information war leaking out into reality.
That's horrible.
They live streamed it. They went to
on
two
what?
mosques.
Like Periscope
one
or something?
mosque on Facebook.
Of course.
Wouldn't Facebook shut it down? Did they shut it down?
It took them, like, I forget how long to take it down.
Obnoxious amount of time?
For the speed with which they're able to... I'm sorry, I'm getting into, like, crazy emotions here, but, like, with the agility they had to all knock out Alex Jones in one moment, you would think one platform would be able to take out a video.
Well,
before it goes. I'm sorry, they're focused on all the wrong shit. They're focused on all the wrong shit.
Yeah, but you don't know, like, you can't, like, billions of things are happening on Facebook every day. Like, there's no data. Like, there's no one person watching all this. There's not many people.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying their energy is focused on stopping shit they shouldn't worry about.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's not focused on stopping shit they absolutely need to worry about.
Yeah, but I feel like you're like confirming your own biases here by taking this event.
I kind of agree with Matt.
Yeah. It seems like you're bringing in past. I mean, you're not wrong, but, like, with this, you're using this data point to justify your own feelings.
I totally am. No disagreement.
Okay.
I told you. I'm like, this has made me extremely emotional.
Okay, just walk me through what happened.
They killed 49 people. Like, I think 40 in one mosque, 9 in the other.
Okay. This isn't what is it, Christchurch, or what's the capital?
Christchurch.
Okay.
And the guy is, I mean, he live streams it right before he goes in. He says, "Subscribe. Remember, lads, subscribe to PewDiePie."
Yeah, that's weird. Why?
Because the whole point is to generate a reaction. The whole point is he knows the leftist media will respond to this, will overreact to this in a way that will force the right to react again, and he wants to ignite this culture war. He wants it to be worse because he thinks it'll result in the white supremacy. Like, is
that what his manifesto said?
Yeah, he's crazy though. I mean, he's insane. He's a nutso person.
Is it just one person? I thought it was multiple people.
Multiple people, but whoever wrote it, let's give it one person.
But, like, the shooters there were multiple shooters.
Yeah, they went to different. Yeah.
How many people? Like 2, 3 people?
I don't know. I think it was 4.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that.
So but the leader guy wrote the manifesto and was live streaming it?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a guy live. Yeah, there was a guy live streaming it happening.
Yeah.
Like, but the problem I have with this is he's right in what his prediction of what was going to happen. Like, with the way it was going to be reacted to. It's exactly what happened. And that really irritates me. And I got to thinking about this, like the Covington kids, right? That was a bot. A bot account posted that video.
Okay.
And the media went with it. Yeah. I see that as somebody saying, let's test this. Let's see how the fuck far we can go with some fake information.
Yeah. Well, that's like, a lot of, have you listened to the Renee DeResta podcast with Joe Rogan and Sam Harris? She did 2 different ones. She's the chick who talks about Russian bot farms.
Yeah, exactly. The Russian bot farms is another perfect example. Yeah. I see the Russian bot farms as it's not that Russia is behind all this. It's that Russia stands to gain the most from it happening, so they're not going to get in the way of it, and they're going to help it. But they're not behind it. They're just an actor. Like, they're just there. They're like,
playing on things that are already happening. Yeah, for sure.
The goal of these crazy people is to destroy the West. You destroy the West through America. These people are obviously sociopathic or psychopathic. So you're looking at, like, the extreme nth degree at all the way end of the population spectrum of, like, crazy motherfuckers. Yeah. So, like, whatever ideology they cling to and justify their fucking actions with, you're still looking at an emotionally unstable person. Like, that's playing into the culture war is slightly, like, you have to differentiate from that. Like, they're both. I agree, and if we had responsible media that treated it that way, I would be fine with it.
Okay.
We don't.
Yeah. Okay.
They in the CNN article that day, they called PewDiePie an alt-right person and an anti-Semite. Not true.
Yeah.
It's like, do you see the point though? Like that makes a whole other people react to like that these people are lying.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the media as a fundamentally important part of our infrastructure.
Yeah,
the most
100%.
important part today, because information is everything.
Hasn't the left wing always been calling PewDiePie an alt-right guy?
And I've been warning about this for 5 years.
I agree with you. And he's obviously, we've talked about this in past episodes. He's obviously done some things to warrant that label at times.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know about
he
that.
warrants criticism.
Sure.
I don't know about that label specifically.
But the label itself is the problem. When you know that you can weaponize the media of the country and information is what matters,
how is he responded?
We are destroying ourselves.
How has he reacted to this?
He tweeted saying he was appalled to be connected to it and he hasn't really done anything else.
Oh.
Well, what is he supposed to do?
There's nothing he can do.
I mean, you're right. I agree. Yeah.
It's
probably good that he said that.
It would have been great for the media to say, we are not going to let this crazy fucking psycho make us turn on somebody who makes funny meme videos.
Yeah, dude.
That would have been, if the media did that, I'd have been like, all right, I feel a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But they did the opposite. They did exactly what the guy said they were going to do.
Dude, they didn't report on terrorism in like the 70s when they just would not report
because
it
they
knew. Yeah, they knew that's what the terrorists are going for.
And this is going to happen again. I guarantee you, this is not a one-off. This is going to be something else.
Well, of course, man. But that's the thing with the population. Like on the distribution graph, like on that bell curve, like these people are gonna there's always gonna be those kind of highly aggressive, highly unstable people who are gonna cause damage in life, regardless of what.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why it's so bad that the media responded that way.
But the difference is now people in upstate New York can know about it happening in New Zealand.
Dude, but
you can all of the media, instead of reporting it as this is a guy with a mental health problem, who just shut up a mosque. You know, now it's becoming.
Well, he was activated by PewDiePie and his alt-right.
Well, dude, remember who was the fucking neuroscientist guy that we saw where we met? Fucking Pinker. Yeah. Steven Pinker.
That's very in line with my question.
Yeah. Well, that's what he was saying. Like, as the world gets better, like people with journalist degrees are gonna have to keep mining the dark shit of life and keep reporting it. That's their job. Also,
but they should
fuck at that point.
But why not? Why not report on it instead of react to it? So I read these CNN articles, and this is not reporting. I watch you watch Joe Rogan, and you see that guy become more and more responsible.
Definitely.
Every time
really
you
cool.
see
That's why he's becoming more and more popular.
Right. I have a huge effect on what I say. Really fucking matters.
Yeah.
And I have to be careful not to react to things too strongly. And the media is doing the opposite.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a good thing that
this has been happening.
This is another. Well, the media also, all these established news outlets and reporting outlets, they've also kind of been incentivized to now cater to certain wings or certain thought patterns.
Yeah.
They're used to now having sponsors that want them to behave a certain way.
Definitely.
So I mean, I think they know that they're being reactionary, but at this point, it's kind of like too late. It's like a lost cause, isn't it?
I do, and this is another thing. It's been happening for a while, man. Like, media has been essential ever since there's been fucking print that opened the door for somebody to talk shit about somebody else. Like that's always been happening. Like the presidential race for like Andrew Jackson, I think John Quincy, either Andrew Jackson, one or the other, was printing that like this guy's fucks hookers, he's killed people before. Like they had a complete smear campaign against each other back in the day. So like there's the speed and the globalization and the interconnection between media nowadays is obviously unprecedented, but there's always been this kind of
there's a big problem now too, because
always
the
been
media,
this problem with media.
So because like things like Twitter aren't considered media,
but
the media can report
who doesn't consider Twitter media?
If it was considered media, they could be held libelous. They can't be held libelous.
But libel is extremely hard to prove.
I'm just saying, if I tweet something,
yeah.
Twitter itself won't be held liable. But if a reporter...
Are you saying libel or liable?
Libel.
Libel, like the crime?
If I say something, if I lie about someone, if I say something that's untrue in a newspaper and they hire me to do it, the whole newspaper gets sued for letting it out. Mm-hmm. Twitter does not held accountable for anything anybody says on it. Mm. But the news can report on what people say on Twitter.
Yeah.
They should be held liable for that. Mm. If you report on a tweet, in my mind, you're not just saying that they said this. You are now reporting it as though it is true or false, depending on how you twist it. And they should be held accountable for that. I like, part of me wants Elon Musk to be like, you know what, fucking Mars can wait 5 years. I'm taking down the media. Like, there's a
That'd
part.
be pretty dope. Yeah.
I'm so tired of
could
it.
do it. Yeah.
I'm so goddamn tired of it. And I really think they're destructive to our country.
What would you do about it if you had unlimited resources?
Me?
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust myself.
Why not?
I don't trust anybody.
All right. Well, given that you hypothetically, if you trusted yourself and had unlimited resources,
if I trusted
what would
myself,
you do? Yeah.
I would say to social media platforms, you either are a platform. What's the word? A neutral platform.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a neutral platform, you can't ban anybody unless they break the law.
Okay.
Right? You can only, and you let the law take care of that.
So you're now reflecting the stuff that Tim Pool has been talking.
Yeah, but I've been saying this stuff for a while. You can ask
agree,
friends of mine, and so either that or they're a publisher, or everything that's on their website they're held accountable for.
Okay.
And then the news, I would say, stop going on Twitter.
Yeah.
Stop. Like, it should be illegal to report on Twitter. I don't care what the.
Well, there's like really groundbreaking, like reporters
Isn't that
use
censorship,
that
though.
Yeah, well, and reporters use Twitter
you're right.
a lot.
You can report on Twitter.
Yeah.
But there should be some kind of rules there.
But
If you're saying a tweet in a positive light, I consider that you publishing it. If you say the tweet is a lie, how is that not libelous? They call it like.
Oh, this is weird. We're in some weird territory.
Can you say it again?
So they're obsessed with Donald Trump's Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He's part of it too. Man.
He is. No denial.
Yeah,
but the best thing, everybody knows the best thing. Everybody under the age of 30 knows when you have an internet troll, you just fucking ignore him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't report on
fuck
him.
around with him.
Like, you're giving the guy exactly what he wants. They keep doing it.
Yeah.
They don't stop.
Well, dude, these people, dude, like they're just gonna keep making those, like, unless I don't know what we could do about it, like I think there could be an option like that.
Well,
but
I don't know the answer. I will say I don't know the answer, but we are in a new kind of war. I'm now convinced we're in it. Like, I'm convinced it's not even coming where it's here. I really think that's true.
I think there's vicissitudes of cultural tension all the time, dude. Like, I was talking to this one of my Uber drivers. I have great conversations with Uber drivers all the time. We were talking about fucking Vietnam because he was like 50. Yeah. And he was just talking about the time, like, he was involved in like fucking anti-war protests in like middle of Georgia in like the 70s or like 60s. And he was just telling, like, I was like, do you think this time period is as contentious as that time period? He's like, not even close.
Yeah,
like,
of course not.
He said there's like, no, dude, like, he said there's a nastiness to it. I think he understands. That's not fair. That dude, Vietnam, there's Kent State. Like, there was all kinds of college shootings. There was protests. All like.
Yeah, but it's not a physical war. It's an information war. It doesn't happen in the physical world.
Yes, it does.
It bleeds out in these events, like New Zealand.
Dude, same thing happened in the papers, like with like Watergate and what's the movie with Tom Hanks?
But it's not nowhere near the same. We got 30 years of weapons in the information world that we've never used in a war.
Okay.
It would be an anomaly if we didn't have a war right now. Every time we build up technology to be able to hurt each other, we use it to hurt each other. Mm-hmm. If we didn't do that right now, that would be an anomaly in human history.
Yeah, but it's happening.
And I believe it's happening.
Oh yeah,
but
dude,
we don't even know, we're not even aware of it.
Well, I think what you should the next big onset of war that happens globally, it has to happen economically. I think we've kind of been over this a little bit. I mean, it could.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I think all you have to do, it's not. I don't think it's economic. I think economic comes second. I think it's cultural. It's the seeds of dissent have been sowed into Western culture.
Sure.
So we have crazy fucking nut jobs who are killing Muslims, and then we have wacko people who don't understand how fragile society is, reacting to it in a very extreme way. That's just dominoing. And I don't see it. It just gets worse every day. I want to be optimistic.
Okay,
I really do.
I see a little bit optimism. I was on Reddit today, and one of the top posts was that the co-founder of WhatsApp, who sold WhatsApp to Facebook for $19 billion, just made a public statement saying delete your Facebook accounts. And there were like 37,000 people below it going, I just clicked the delete button.
Yeah, Facebook is kind of dying right now.
They really are. Well, I mean, it makes you wonder.
Why did he do that?
Pardon?
Why did he do that?
Why did he make that? Obviously, he just believes that it's not a trustable company anymore. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, do you know, a lot of like Elizabeth Warren is running on breaking up the trusts of Facebook, right? And I think that might be accurate. Maybe, I don't know. Could be. I mean, they own a lot of shit. I mean, I don't know because of the details. But dude, I don't know. First of all, I would say go outside and talk to more people.
I have been.
Yeah.
But
dude, like I don't like you're very emotional about it. And I get it, that's fine. You're passionate. That's great. But like I don't like, dude. My only point is like there's been so many more contentious periods in American history and world history. This time period, we're dealing with unprecedented technology. We're in a war, like for sure. Like the Russians have been hacking and influenced our election and created all the bots and created the culture war. Absolutely,
I don't think it's a nation war. I don't think it's a nation war.
It's both. I mean, nation building is part of culture. Like they overlap.
Something really interesting has happened because we're globally connected and because markets are globally connected. And this is why I think there's a little bit of economics at play here, right?
Certainly.
If business people all over the world now kind of rely on one another's cooperation, at least to some extent, then those people are going to work as hard as they can to control or manipulate or influence people who don't have a lot of power and say get all of their information from social media. So obviously, like there's still strong national political alignments, and those are going to have big influences on the global stage for the next few years or decades to come. But the collective knowledge about whether or not social media are good is bad seems to be stratified among whether or not you work in Silicon Valley or what your kind of income level is or what your education level is.
I just think it's social media is good or bad.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree it's good.
I totally disagree with you. Definitely
Really?
not. That was like we talked about how bad it was for 2 hours last week.
I mean, there's tons of like major negative drawbacks. I'm not saying that, but overall, it's fucking good. Like you can't say.
I don't agree.
Bro, how the fuck can you not? The Arab Spring was instigated by. There's so many fucking examples of positive benefits.
I'm not saying there aren't positives. I'm not saying there are not positives.
You think net overall? I think net is bad.
As it is right now.
I think it is close to neutral. But I think what's happening is that over the past 10 or 15 years, a lot of people bought into kind of like the Zuckerberg mantra that, right, we're going to connect the world and we're going to solve problems and it's going to be benevolent. Sure, and I think people are starting to now officially recognize that there might have been some good that came out of that, but it is a cursed blessing. Right.
Well, it's just two sides of the coin.
You can't. Well, you're right.
That's how we were talking earlier with like personality traits.
I think for a long time people were not taking the bad with the good, and now people are going like, no, we there has to be some serious regulation.
Yeah.
There are serious repercussions in terms of economics, threats to democracy, threats to our mental health. All of these things, everyone has internalized and accepted now.
Yes.
And that's happened in the past.
That's part of like the evolution and understanding of like what we're actually dealing with, because it's totally unprecedented.
That has happened in the last 6 months.
You can justify it.
Like, that has happened in the last 6 months.
But you can not justify, but you can adjust to that. Like you.
No, I'm not saying you can't.
Like, I think net overall, once everybody fucking realizes
sound like
that,
me 7 years ago. Like
wow.
I have my friend Charlie.
Yeah.
He would test. I used to talk because he deleted his Facebook and he'd ask me what I thought about it, and I would say I think it's overall a good thing. I think it's that people would just got to learn to use it.
Yeah.
But it's been 7 years, and I've seen nothing but things get worse. I've seen nothing but things get worse. It's useful for other countries that don't have any communication to be able to communicate to get over a tyrant. Yeah. But in a country like ours where everybody's comfortable and they don't understand how fragile that is, and they complain about things that aren't actually problems.
Yeah.
It's nothing but a problem. It does nothing but.
Dude, but that's like saying that people shouldn't go outside and fucking talk. Like, people would be doing this shit anyway, man. It's like,
not the same. It's not talking
it's
person
not
to
the
person
same,
is
sure.
not the same.
Sure,
I think
but people never really did that in the first place.
Well, no,
there was no Twitter mobs before Twitter.
There were regular fucking mobs, bro. There were regular mobs.
Yeah, but a
people
regular
went and killed
mob,
each other.
A regular, I've seen them form. I understand what you're talking about, but a regular mob has a much higher threshold because you're afraid of a rock getting thrown at your head. But a Twitter mob has a zero threshold. Nothing bad happens to you. And if you are pissed off because someone you disagree with said something,
let him finish.
If you are pissed off because somebody said something that you don't like, and a bunch of other people feel the same. And it's the same thing Jack Dorsey was talking about. How you have the problems. Like, I don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that human beings are mature enough to handle this. I just don't.
There is something to the fact that because we're in a privileged and specifically a two-party system, that social media might catalyze our politics a little bit differently than it does in some other.
I would agree,
nations.
dude. I don't think the two-party system is a very good system. I mean, I would have to do more. I don't have a very developed idea about this, but like you just see other European like parliamentary systems. Sure. Like you like if we had like a fucking feminist party, like the actual like parliamentary got like voted in by like the actual fucking direct representation of what they were, so they'd be like two feminists and then the rest would somewhere between like central and the middle. Wait, let me finish.
Sorry.
Like if we could take like what the feminists could fucking mouth off, or I mean, and there are cool feminists out there, but like the 4 good ideas that they have out of like 200, then we can integrate those, and then like the 200, then they're just doing their feminist thing.
Who
the
decides?
Government.
I don't trust.
That's
the
what I'm
government.
saying. A parliamentary system.
I don't trust the government. I'll
never
never
go live in the woods then, bro.
Like, what do you work for the government?
Yeah, you work.
That's why I don't trust them. Like I'm telling you, like there's bureaucracy is not useful for that shit. It just isn't. It never will be,
dude. I mean, it's not.
No, that's
useful.
communism. I mean, you're
What
talking,
do you mean,
like,
bro?
serious socialism.
No, like, I'm not, bro. What the fuck are you talking? There's regulation.
You can't vote for everything. You can't. The market solves more problems than it causes.
Dude, all right, it's both. It's a balance. Wait. It's a dichotomy. You're taking.
I have a very unique viewpoint on this, and I think power always concentrates among those who want to keep their power, regardless of the economic system in place. Yeah. But I don't think that you can say that somehow communism is more or less benevolent than communism, which is more or less benevolent than total laissez-faire capitalism. I think trying to structure society along some predetermined rule set that's called Marxism or socialism or Leninism.
But that's the only way government functions.
You're right. It has
only ever functioned that way. It can't function any other way. That's why the best government is the most limited one, the one that can do the least to you. You don't want them making decisions.
You're talking in these very like broad axiomatic.
That's too black and white.
That's not. It's too.
You're
painting with too broad a brush.
What you need the government to do when it comes in regulation.
I want you guys to come and work with me. I want you to see how long it takes to get the tiniest little thing done.
Yeah,
I think there's an important distinction a lot of people overlook when they decide, when they're forming their opinions on what kinds of what models of governmental universe should be dictating our lives. And I think the thing that people overlook is what we really don't want in society is corruption and cronyism, right? But those things can be highly, highly rampant and very widespread in both capitalist societies and in communist societies.
There's no way out of it.
There isn't any way out of it. There have been times in U.S. history that we got really good at breaking that up because democracy was a little bit less influenced by money.
Yeah.
And we could pass legislation
that said we're
going to break up large corporations.
Yeah, the antitrust laws, the developments of the national parks.
Part of the problem that cronyism is spun out of control right now is because there's no such thing as global leadership. There's no such thing as any global system for breaking up global cronyism and global capitalism.
That's a good point.
I don't want there to be.
No, well, it's funny. You don't want there to be, but the alternative is what? You have these. Part of the problem Facebook and Twitter is so huge is because they can operate in every country.
Wait, can I interject on this point here? Yeah, like to your point, like if you don't have that global body that can do that, dude, then you're giving like at least with government, everybody gets in there and they say it's for the greater good.
The biggest companies
in the world. Let me finish. They say that we're gonna agree we're doing it for the greater good for the people, at least in a democratic system. That's like in principle. Obviously, it doesn't work all the time.
It never works. I mean,
but it's the principle. It's the fucking foot forward. It's the right foot forward, and you're gonna try. It's always gonna be imperfect.
Here's why.
Let me fucking finish, goddammit. And then when fucking people, but businesses they don't have that. They can say that and they can give it all they fucking got, but there's no accountability. And then you have to have the accountability. That's the government. It's the yin and the yang.
Your country.
But dude,
here's okay. I'm gonna throw your world government out the window right now. We have a United States of America, and we can't get 50 states to get together on anything. How the fuck? We're way more unified.
I'm not saying
look at what's happening in the EU. The EU is a nightmare. They can't do anything.
Have you been to Europe, bro? It's very nice.
It's very nice, but the EU is a nightmare,
dude.
The EU is objectively a nightmare. Like, it is a terrible...
Go to fucking Uganda in the civil... Bro, it's the first fucking world. How can it be a nightmare, bro? It's the governing body that runs the first world. That place is fucking spectacular. What are you talking about?
There is not a lot of evidence that shows that the EU is economically solvent, or that, like, if the European Union started to fall apart, and if more countries started... well, that's what I'm saying. If more countries started to leave it like the way the UK has, there's not a lot of evidence to show that Europe as a whole would remain complicit with one another's rules. Where there's not a lot to show that it would stay. You know, part of the reason it was instated is because there was this idea that, look, well, okay, if all of the European countries relied on one another economically, they wouldn't go to war with one another.
Yeah, but then you have the problem of the countries that don't produce anything and are not, or have a huge economic problem.
The only problem as old as time.
The only thing that might change that today is that, you know, 100 years ago, all of the European countries were very economically different, politically different, and culturally different.
Wait, sorry, when was the time period?
It was like 100 years ago.
When they formed the EU, or?
Well, let's say the onset of World War I, 1914.
Okay, yeah, 100 years ago.
Right?
Yeah.
105, more or less.
Yeah.
Today, you can't go anywhere in Europe without... You can get a job in any country in Europe if you speak English. It's the culture. Everybody uses the internet the same way. Everyone... All those European countries share the same memes.
Yeah.
You know? So there might not be a driver or a need, right, for the European Union anymore. But...
My argument against the EU is that it doesn't balance. Like, we have balance of powers. We have state power and federal power, and the EU does a terrible job of balancing nation power and EU power.
Sure,
it takes way too much on itself. It's way too centralized.
Yeah.
And I don't think that if we can barely get that with 50 states we barely have that. There's no way we're adding Canada. Imagine trying to add just Canada, which is very similar to us.
16 million people.
But just adding Canada would be a nightmare. And then if you try to add Mexico, that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, we're too different. We are different. Nations are different.
If you think about it in like a short time scale, like in the decade, like in the years, in the first 3 years, the first 5 years of preceding decades, it's going to be messy. But if you think about it on a long-term scale, in the terms of human evolution, like it's eventually probably going to happen, or we're all going to blow ourselves up. It's like it's one or the other.
Okay, if it's going to be messy, then no one's going to want to be part of it. So how are you going to make sure it doesn't fall apart?
What, dude?
Are you going to have an army?
Because
the EU wants to have an army.
It's going to be, dude. All right,
we're forecasting
revolutions
really far
galore,
into the future
man.
Right now.
What?
Sure, but dude, every time human beings have tried to get together for a greater good to like fucking start democracy, the American Revolution, pretty fucking messy, man. A lot of people died.
But they were together against the common enemy.
Yeah.
Who's the common enemy?
A lot of people
aliens.
weren't together on that. A lot of people were very passive.
Yeah, a lot.
There were a lot of Tories that just kind of like threw their hands up, and
it's like something like 20% of people actually fought in the war, and like 80% stayed out. And like, yeah, it's kind of interesting, and that's kind of what we're doing right here. Like most of people in America, more or less, don't care. But like
they will.
Really.
Yeah, well, and that's the important. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're on the streets. We're the fucking forebearers. We're the spearheads to like actually hopefully at least direct the ship a little bit.
One thing that could make the next, election very dangerous, and I mean like physically dangerous, and like you might see real mobs, is that part social media, as much as it made our opinions worse and less informed, it also kind of pacified us physically. And I think if everyone stops using social media, and all of a sudden the next election is like, okay, you have to talk to people to the left and to the right of you about your political beliefs. People, the way our ideas have been gestating alone in our echo chambers for so long that once they come out in real life, they're going to be bad.
I don't know, man. I think it's been actually better because like people before.
I mean, it might de-escate now that we start talking to one
people
another
like
about this thing.
I want to say two things. Let me say two things.
I was gonna say something first.
I got it, dude. Let me say it first on the New Zealand thing. The guy's manifesto was very clear. He said, I'm using guns because I know it will cause an issue in America, and I want to start an American civil war. Okay, that's the goal. Because what he wants. I just want to bring that up. So this person who's insane, I agree. He thought he's right in saying that if you want to destroy the West, you have to destroy America. That's definitely true. Like You can't destroy the West without destroying America.
Mm-hmm.
We're the core of it. We're the head of it. Whether we want to be or not, we are.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to be wrong in saying that this is going to spark a civil war, but I don't believe it. And then the other thing I want to say is, so there's a problem on social media that I don't know how to solve, which is the bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into political bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the type of person who is, I would argue, the problem, the person who can't talk to people who aren't like them,
Mm-hmm.
you're less likely to on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Who gets to fix that? Like, so, because every time people, I just saw today, somebody blamed YouTube for being right wing and having too many videos, the suggestions going to the right wing, but then
Mm-hmm.
somebody did their own study and they showed that it was actually pretty even, but a slight favor to the left, saying
Mm-hmm.
you're more likely to get suggested left-wing videos.
Mm-hmm.
So
Whose study?
who
was it?
gets to decide
Yeah.
this? But either it doesn't matter. Who gets to decide what?
It does matter a little.
Well,
bit
see,
depending on-
Jim,
But you-
this is why
like-
I think that you really do have to give some credence to the fact that the corporate, like all those social network companies, all those social media companies are private entities.
That's what I was
that's
saying earlier.
why
Yeah.
something has to something or some. This is.
Well, I'm not.
It's hard,
I want to
to
make sure.
decide
I want to
who
make sure. I
regulates.
don't want to say I was against regulating these companies.
Right.
I'm not saying
It's
that.
kind of what it. You
No, I'm
went
just-
on this like weird.
No, I'm
tangent
just
where you're
I'm
like,
just saying
government is- all
trusting the government is a
bad.
it is.
You're right.
I mean,
I trust in
government-
the government.
Yes, obviously, dude. Like
government
it's a
in
fucking
potential
shit.
is the most dangerous thing in the world. In potential, government's far more dangerous than anything else.
There's been
More dangerous than
there's-
Facebook and
No,
Twitter.
bro.
And
The
YouTube.
Dutch East
In
India
short-
Company, fucking all the dude. There's so many histories of fucking corporations doing terrible fucking
here's
things.
here's the difference.
It's equal.
Here's how.
It's
If you
equally bad.
overcorrect Facebook, the
Uh-huh.
government is horribly dangerous.
Sure.
You're right.
That's what I'm saying. In potential, that's way more concerning to get. You have to be extremely careful.
Okay, well, all
when
right.
you get the government involved.
Yes.
Here's
All
where
right.
I
On this aspect, you might be right, but on other aspects, the government is like better to have a stronger position. That's why when I think we both agreed earlier.
I'm
you were
pretty
painting-
libertarian,
you-
so
Jim,
I'm,
but you were painting
this
with a very broad brush. Like there's
dude. I've worked
plenty
for the
of
government
things.
for over a decade.
Yeah, but you've
Jim,
worked in.
this is why I disagree with you.
You've
and
worked in
I
one
trust me,
sector.
I understand the sentiment. My dad was a state worker for like 35 years, so I've heard a lot of this stuff before. But here's where I disagree with you. Is that you're right? It sounds horrifying. A world where the government regulates what is allowed on Twitter, what isn't allowed on Twitter. It sounds very dystopian. I agree with you. But again, the alternative, the reason we're okay with the government having any red tape at all, right, is that, and obviously it gets very corrupt right now. A lot of positions in the government are not appointed. But when we don't like things that the government is doing, kind of the only people we have to blame are ourselves. We have this tiny voice, right? And a lot of it is kind of like psychological. Voting is sort of designed to make us feel complacent, to feel like we have an impact on how society is run. But it's the only fair way of saying, like, oh, well, we have to have political discourse in this country, because if we do, we can get people to vote the problem out. Theoretically,
I agree with you, but the extreme libertarians would say that's exactly the truth of the market. Whatever Facebook is, we push it.
The difference is the only people who get to vote or have a say in what Facebook or Twitter, whatever does, is our shareholders. And then all of a sudden, you kind of
dude.
disproportionately
you set
favor-
up your account. You didn't have to do that. You gave your information away. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I mean, if you're going to say the government, they're both bad in the exact same way. You're both, like, Facebook exists the way it is because people liked it and people went along with it, and they didn't think about it. They just did it blindly.
Right.
And it could be just as bad, but worse with the government. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't regulate these companies, but I am saying it's way riskier. It's a bigger concern. I don't want to not regulate them. I don't want to just leave them alone because they're a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, do you want to give Donald Trump the ability to just decide?
No, I mean, not at all.
No.
But well,
No, I
here's
think you're
like
right in
what
this sense.
where the problem is like we were in this gray squishy area where, like, oh, we want to hold, right? Well, I don't remember which one of it was that was saying this, but you said, like, Twitter shouldn't be able to just publish things.
I agree.
And the U.S. law should be an imprint of, like, the laws that we follow in terms of free speech on social media, right? So where do you draw the line between the government is going to control this medium and private interests
But
are going to
that's
control.
not government control as much as
The problem, I want you to think less about corporation and more about private interest, right? Because yes, anyone can set up an account and give their information away naively to Facebook or Twitter, what have you, and they can collect it and do whatever. But right, the management, how that data is collected and how it's used, it depends on the input of shareholders. It depends on.
It also depends on you using them.
I agree, and I think that's why a lot of people have stopped using them. I think that's why people
I agree.
Especially
young people who are using Snapchat, which doesn't save anything. Like what?
Nudes.
Right? But I'm just saying, like
nudes.
younger people are becoming more aware of that kind of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I want to say is, God, this is
it is hard. If I I'll joke about this all the time. I come up with this like, oh well, if I credit my history degree to anything, it's like I think I've kind of like accepted that there isn't a right answer. You have to strike a balance between.
I got it. So the reason I had such a reaction to you is because to me there's a fundamental difference between saying a person can sue Twitter based on the rules of publication and saying the government decides what Twitter can and can't do. I don't like the second one. The first one, I like that. It says that that Twitter has to go by these rules, which have worked for a long time.
Where do the rules
speech,
come from? The law, the government.
The law, a robust law that has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But the law that lets you sue a company through due process. It doesn't say the government just gets to. You don't vote on what is.
No, absolutely.
A company. But I don't think you should be able to vote on what a company can and can't do.
All right.
Let's say
I do think you should be able to sue a company because they're being libelous.
Can I take a time out real quick? I mean, I feel like we've been interrupting each other more than let each other. So I just want to say, let's let each other finish.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think there's that much of a difference fundamentally from filing a lawsuit that says my free speech has been violated. But I remember that there was this big case with the cake, that bakery that wouldn't bake that gay couple a cake or something, right? Mm-hmm. Their complaint for that was, they might be a private business, but their services they provide whatever we asked them to put on the cake. And they refused to do it, and we don't like the grounds that they refused to do that on. Mm-hmm. Now replace the.
I was on the side of the bakery on that one.
Replace the bakery with. I was still a little too young to have a real opinion, but replace the bakery with Twitter. Okay, and you file a lawsuit, goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decides, yeah, you're right. Twitter did something wrong here, and they have limited people's free speech. So when they issue, and this is how the legislative branch works. Once they issue something that states that was wrong and you have to do this from now on, that becomes law. That becomes law that governs, literally, that becomes the benchmark by which the corporate entity has to operate. Mm-hmm. So that's not. I mean, right? You're looking at this in terms of like you want reactionary government to be in control. Right, you don't want legislation. You want judicial action to be in control of corporation. Yes. That's kind of how you're seeing it, but it's still governance.
It is, but it's instigated by people. Okay. So if the courts are flooded with people complaining about a problem, they'll react. But if you go vote and your Congress people try to say, that's a completely different thing to me.
Yes,
the judicial. You understand what I'm saying?
I know. There are different methods of governance here. The problem is that judicial action is very slow and very conservative.
I think it needs to be.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Because this is dangerous territory, and we do not want to jump in. And I would much rather. I actually think that the whole Me Too thing is another great example. Yes, it's slow, but it needs to happen. Like the courts need to be overwhelmed with rape accusations because there's a problem. Like I'm not kidding. That could be the
soundbite right there.
You know what I mean? Like if, instead of overwhelming the media, go to the court. Overwhelm them with this shit.
I agree.
Because there's a problem with the system.
And there's a due process there too.
That's what a lot of feminists would say is the problem with the system is that like.
Well, they're not going to trust the courts.
It's hard. It's hard to prosecute someone of rape because it's.
Yeah, I got to adjust what I said.
Our courts are very evidence based, and it's hard. Yes. It's hard to have evidence.
I have to adjust what I said.
I think that's why women.
That's why they want to go to public opinion because they know they can just go based off pure emotion and not actual evidence.
Which scary in a different way.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to get results, and then like the court is a very different animal.
That's why I gotta adjust what I want to say because
Sure.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm against the fact that they went to the media with the things they did. That's fine. I think it's great that it's out. What I'm saying is while the media was on it, that's the time to go to court.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
because
then
you got
everybody
you use the media
go to court
for the
now
court.
because if they're overwhelmed and the media's like,
It's
what
relevant.
the hell? Why are you not dealing with this?
Then
Tell
they're gonna
tell
light a
us
fire
what's
under
going
their
on.
ass. Yeah.
That's what the media's for. And another reason why I'm so
Yeah.
scared by their behavior
Okay.
because I think they're reactionary in one direction.
Yeah.
And it scares me.
Sure.
It frightens me.
No, I agree.
They've always
Yeah,
kind of been that
sure.
like that.
Yeah. Can I say something
in a
too?
way.
With like what you were saying about like the mob thing and also about the ideas like once like if everybody shut off social media and had to like disseminate their ideas into the real world and had to talk about it, I think we become more nuanced with ideas because before one charismatic person could fucking based on some dumbass unthought through idea, although very charismatic and losing the words, but charming, powerful.
Yes,
Can
manipulative.
can take communism, bro. For example, like can take on an entire fucking crowd and incite violence. History is fucking filled with these examples, man. Filled with these examples. So that's why I'm saying social media is benefit because there's so many nuances of ideas. A rational, self-improving person can sift through the mass and say, okay, wow, this idea is clearly shit. This idea is somewhere in the middle. This idea has been through a lot. And it's really passed the test of the free market of ideas. And okay, now here it is. I'm going to adopt that idea. It's our job as a society, I think, to create our own discernment and judgment methods to test out these ideas. And I think social media has done a really good job. It's extremely messy and extremely dangerous. And I think that's where you kind of have a more conservative temperament. I think this is where you're coming from and why this.
I do because I'm scared.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think that's just. I think you have a very good point. But at the same time, I think it's a net overall. I trust people's judgment. I have like either way we're fucked. So you might as well hope for the best. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. I think the same thing with the government too, because I've seen way too many times in historical circumstances that when corporations get away because they become untethered from the greater good, and even though that's just a principle, it still has the fucking effect. When they become untethered from the greater good, they become tethered to fucking profit, and that ends up fucking over people to a fucking ridiculous amount of degree, and it's absolutely disgusting.
I have to roll back a little bit because I have to admit, one, you can't go backwards. So there's no way. There's no way out. So I have to roll back on that
because you're spewing out a lot of fear, and I'm like, dude, you can't do anything.
I'm fucking scared.
I get it, man. I get it.
Scared.
I feel you. So am I. So am I. Goddamn
I've never been scared.
Yeah.
I've never I've seen shit. We talked last week about the 2008 financial crisis, about 9/11. I didn't tell you that the first year out of college there was a school shooting that my brother's friend brought a gun to school.
Your brother's
in my
friend?
high school ex-friend at the time, but you understand.
But still, that's
right?
like
I've
two people away from you.
And I remember going with my father to the town hall meeting to talk about it and
Wow.
watching these parents behave like animals.
Really?
Like
that's what happened in Niskayuna,
right?
dude. That's
I get it. And so it's scary.
Yeah.
I understand what mobs look like.
Yeah.
I've seen you people. I understand you're scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're reacting in such an extreme way, and I feel like that's what the media is doing, and that scares me because I've seen how quick it goes from calm, organized situation to just primal human emotion and rage and pitchforks.
Well, it makes you
firebombs.
You kind of like realize anytime there is that much violence and unjust violence, when kids are dying, that is bad. It is horrifying.
It's like
it makes perfect sense that people, when people want answers, when they want an answer spiritually about why did this happen, how do we keep this from happening again, that they go to they reach for political means,
which is scary to me. I'd rather they go to a church. To be honest, I would much rather they go to a church because but
the church, I mean, is politicized.
It is. What I mean by that is because we're so comfortable. Like if you think of every society leading up before the Industrial Revolution, if something terrible happened, it's life. Like that's just life. Terrible things happen.
Well, I mean, there could be quite liable to start a mob.
I think we have a very low threshold for what we're willing to tolerate in this country. Or very low. Very little needs to happen before we feel like everything. I'm kind of doing it right now.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like calm is
right.
contagious, man. Like you're one of the more reasonable people and more knowledgeable people on the subject. So if you're carrying that strong emotion, that's gonna freak other people out. I mean, it can be useful in certain situations, but I mean, I think and I'm not trying to toot our own horns there, but like not a lot of people are having this conversation. We need to take this responsibility, like in a Joe Rogan kind of way.
I agree.
That's why we're posting this on YouTube.
I agree.
Hit the subscribe.
No, but exactly. Yeah, subscribe.
I
to us,
agree.
bitches.
It's
but yeah, that like you need to. I mean, not control. Don't suppress that emotion, but just deal with it in a more cathartic and
I tried,
integrated man. Yeah, I get. And this is probably another way of dealing with it. So we're finding a take on that.
I want to use a different analogy. Yeah. I think it's better to think of social media as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a horribly destructive tool.
Yeah.
It can be a wonderfully progressive tool.
Yeah, I've thought about this weird regression that happens. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
But what I think, I guess I see what I see right now is more destructive.
Okay.
I see right now.
Sure,
I see
sure.
people not able to. They basically have a gun, and they never took the training for it. Like
we're playing with fire.
Yeah.
Is there a glimmer of hope? And we've talked about you and I have talked about this interesting idea that like the concept of evolution can be applied to anything.
Dude, I love
and
it.
Sometimes things naturally, both in terms of the biophysiological states of species and the way our minds work, the way art works.
Yeah.
They all go through periods of evolution and are kind of self-correcting in some way.
Yes. Yeah.
Environments are self-correcting. Is there any possibility maybe that as people slowly start to peel away from social media exponentially becomes less and less valuable? What happens when all of the conservatives or skeptics or what have you just stop using social media, and then literally social media is an echo chamber only for the extreme liberals? Like all of a sudden, what weight does that hold on society?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Gab or Minds.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty
decentralized.
Decentralized, pretty hands off. They
find a haven for a lot of like right wing people. I mean,
that's
it's not quite. I mean, but that's what they're known for. They're like it's like 5% of their users are like extreme.
You know what Signal is?
Yeah.
No, but wait. Let me. I do think that's a better solution. I think it's like the whole.
But they're just not popular. They're just like right now.
They're becoming more popular.
They are for sure, certainly. But
they're
it's
growing.
But yeah, of the distribution pie, they're like a fucking sliver.
Sure, but I mean, if you in economics, growth is way more important. If Facebook's shrinking and Gab is growing and Twitter is not growing, that's
how is Gab organized? Is it like a blockchain?
It's basically
thing?
Twitter.
Yeah. Well, the Minds is working on a blockchain, right? They're trying.
Minds is. Yeah, they're trying to. I think Gab. They all will be soon.
Yeah. Twitter's trying to be blockchain too, right?
But I think it would be better. That's the other thing. There's no way out of that. It is all going to be decentralized.
Yeah.
It is all going to be. It's going to be decentralized, and you'll never be able to delete it.
Yeah.
It's never
crazy.
Glad this happening now, not 5 years ago.
I thought about this the other day. Too. I have an interesting. And you're a computer science person. I texted you something a while ago, remember? And you were like, "Wow, what the hell have you been reading?" And there was like a theorem, right, about I think one of the guys that wrote C invented it. There's Moore's law, which is circuitry is going to become exponentially faster and more powerful, and that's going to impact processing speeds, yada yada yada. And so the doubling time, you can measure it. So far that's been true. But there was another theorem that I sent you, and I don't remember what it's called. I do
remember this.
Right. It was the guy that he stated, people are going to write more and more code that's junk and garbage and that just congests the digital world, that it's actually going to make us less and less efficient. That rate is faster than the rate at which technology is actually expanding.
That's interesting.
Why? Yeah, where does he derive that from? Like how?
Well, the
it's
argument
both are theorems and not laws, so they're just speculative, right?
Okay, yeah. Because I can maybe see that happening with ideas.
No,
it
makes you wonder now.
Well,
what if we let's apply that to say the blockchain or social media. Like, it's almost we've become so aware of how useless it is. What happens if it just becomes obsolete? Like, remember, think about our first reactions, our first freakouts of like when books were published. People went nuts.
Dude,
people went everyone's gonna think the same way. It's gonna be horrifying. Yeah. Remember when locomotives were popular machines?
People thought people were gonna explode.
People thought it's bad for your mental health to go more than 60 miles an hour, and there was this period of freak now.
They thought
it was oversaturation of these technologies, and then we kind of peeled it back and we went like, oh, there's a responsible way to use this.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's happening.
Don't lose the forest for the trees, or however that fucking thing. That's what I'm trying. Like, I agree. I think that's what.
That's
Vince
true,
is saying.
and I guess there's two ways this happens.
Yeah.
It either happens that way, or it happens the other way.
But it's going to stabilize eventually.
It will stabilize eventually.
But it's going to be really painful in the process.
But that's growth. That's life.
But painful. But painful. I mean, like it might be like their physical, that loss of life.
Well, that's where we have to fucking come in and put our best foot forward.
All of those the Twitter mobs and the
don't
digital
get me wrong.
mobs.
Dude, I'm training in MMA. Like, I want a gun. Like, I'm not. I'm not like I share your guys' fear, but I don't. I guess I'm more like anytime I have a fear, I'm like I want to practically do something about it. Like, and that's where I think. That's where social media is not going to.
The first practical thing I'm going to do in my life is in this next election. I've never been much of a protester, but I'm going to get signs that say delete your social media. I'm not picking a side. I'm not voting one way or the other. I mean, I'm gonna vote obviously for.
I might carry around a gun,
but I'm not really gonna.
I might.
I'm not really
tough to get your.
Well, do it while you still can.
You live in Albany County. You're gonna have a hard time, I think, getting a carry permit.
I'm not gonna care that much about. As someone who really just cares about democracy and our process more than I do one party or the other, because I don't trust either party. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna really get behind a candidate as much as I am gonna go like every time someone brings up policy, I'm gonna like, are you getting your information from social media? Are you getting it from Twitter, from Joe Rogan, from Gab, from whatever?
Are you saying that's bad?
I'm not. Well, I'm just. That's gonna be my first question.
Okay.
That's gonna be my first question.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go like, if you're getting it from Facebook, first of all.
Fact check that shit, bitch.
First of all, let's come back and have a conversation after you've been off of Facebook for a week.
Okay.
And B, just delete your social media.
I don't see why that's a big point to democracy. Like, I think these things are helpful overall. I don't think they're like a negative. I mean, I get like they definitely have negative influences, but I don't think a politician who's like on Facebook.
No. You need to. I wish you guys were there for that speech that I saw that Roger McNamee gave, where he
Who's
gave.
that?
He was the man I told. Maybe you weren't here last week, but he was the venture capitalist I spoke to. Sure. He was one of the first investors in Facebook, and he has like.
That guy! I was gonna go see him talk. Fuck.
Yes.
You talked with him?
Yes.
Damn.
That was the guy who.
I met his brother at like the talk we went to. Right. I met his fucking brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
He had a very. And he was the kind of guy that before that speech, I was really skeptical about like, do I really care about Facebook having all my data? And he had a very, very laid out systematic roadmap for you to follow to go like, oh no, this is why it's dangerous. This is why it's bad for democracy.
You absolutely should care.
Yeah, you absolutely
can you cliff notes that for me and everybody else who might watch this eventually?
I can, but I'm gonna have to do it on another episode. I want to read his book first before I really start.
Just give like 3 points of his speech.
It's to give you an idea. It
doesn't have to be.
If Facebook is taking all your data,
yeah.
I mean, the bubble example is a better. Really, you could probably describe it better than I could. And there's like a word for it now, in sociology and psychology. But the idea that like you can search things, and just by virtue of like looking, you were interested once in looking up a firearm or a guitar or a home security system or something, anything you want to purchase.
Yeah. It starts feeding you
Google,
all that shit.
Google will remind you like, you might also be interested in this. Facebook.
Yeah. Dude, they do it on Instagram. Yeah.
Right. But the
problem
is
to keep you on the platform.
The problem is too, there's a reward mechanism in your head that makes you go like, I know that I want this already, so I'm gonna keep looking this stuff up, or I'm gonna keep clicking on the links that these social media platforms are recommending to me.
Yeah.
And then, there's analysts out there that have figured out, well, like, if you like this, you'll probably also like this. You probably also think this way. You probably also have this political belief.
Sure, yeah.
And all of a sudden, all these interests can start working with one another to go like...
Yeah, it's a confirmation bias.
Right, it's confirmation bias. It's confirmation bias, but money interests can control those confirmation biases.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And choose how... people who use social media are informed.
Yeah, we got to educate. Like, I think once you become educated about this, you can recognize, become conscious of it, and it's not a problem anymore.
That's not true.
5% of people on the planet probably can do that. I mean,
it doesn't not become a problem.
I like it, but it's a good thing too. Like, it's catering. You're losing out on the because when everybody watches TV, everybody has to sit through a fucking detergent commercial, a truck commercial. Yeah. When you get rid of that fucking content, you become more targeted. Like when I'm listening to like Joe Rogan, he talks about alpha brain. I want to buy alpha alpha brain eventually.
Being
You
more
don't have the money for it.
Being more targeted
yeah.
sounds great until you realize
there's two sides of the coin.
Until you realize that your health is at stake. And this was the example that he gave that really drove it home. All right.
Okay.
I don't know. Were you here for when I gave the example about the mouse clicks? How they can? It must have been last week. Did I talk about the mouse clicks? All right.
Okay.
Let's say one of the things that Twitter and Facebook can now do is like when you click around on the website, they see how you click around, and they can figure out based on your mouse movements alone whether or not you're human or you're a bot.
Wow.
Right?
That's
amazing.
That's how those little reCAPTCHA things. You just click the little check.
Oh.
It uses all your mouse movements.
Oh,
It uses your phone too.
Yeah, the one we use.
Like,
All you have to do
like
is click.
stoplights.
I am not a robot.
Yeah.
It's doing that by it's measuring and estimating whether or not you're a human or a robot based on like how you've been viewing the page and scrolling on the page.
Sick.
Literally.
That's cool.
But now think about this. Let's say, if you altered that science a little bit, let's say theoretically, and I'm sure they can do this, you could probably pick up based on someone's mouse movements whether or not you're developing tremors.
Okay.
Okay. Wouldn't it be lovely if, there was some kind of alert system? Keep in mind, all this data is private data and it's being sold, right? Facebook and Twitter are all their corporations. They're private corporations, and they're only interested in profiting on all of the data they make.
Yeah.
They're not going to use that information to say, like, hey, you should go see a doctor. They're going to sell that information to pharmaceutical companies who go, all right, all the people have found we have ads. Let's select all the people who we think based on their mouse movements have tremors or developing health issues, and we'll put up ads for pharmaceuticals, and they need that and for health insurance. Instead of telling someone you're sick and you might be dying, you need help, we'll just sell them the solution instead.
Okay.
That is the definition of capitalism.
Yeah, that's already happening.
It is already happening. But that literally is the danger. That is a perfect illustration of the danger of these private corporations.
Yeah.
Having access to our data and selling it.
But I think the solution to that is becoming like developing yourself personally and being able to discern like, okay, this is happening. You educate somebody.
Okay, but you can be aware of that and still be manipulated by like, oh, I need health insurance instead of like I'm sick, right? The private interests.
Like everybody needs health insurance.
My argument is developing yourself would solve every problem, but only 10% of the people on the planet are ever going to do it. Most people are sheep.
The real answer, Matt, would just be just get rid of your social media.
I think that's too deterministic, and I think you're ignoring the human spirit.
I don't know, man.
I know I get what you're saying. I mean, you could, but like when you take that view, that just like that is going to put you in a cave somewhere. Like eventually, like, the logical conclusion
let me clarify that too. I am including myself in that sheep somewhere.
Sure.
So you're in that like.
Well, it's Nietzsche's
fucking.
What's the thing to proclivity to stupidity? Like that's a paraphrase, but
but
everybody has that.
You can't be an expert in everything, and you can only develop yourself in so many areas.
Sure. But that's why you hire shit out. That's why capitalism, you hire other shit
But
out.
that's what he's saying.
How hard can you develop yourself that you can see beyond the bubble that AI is creating a reality for you? Like you can be aware that it exists.
I see it on my Instagram every day. I like it. It's better. All right. I would not, dude. I fucking hate commercials where it's like some trash comedian selling his soul.
I agree with you, but part of what it's doing is making you like it. I mean, that's
I like the stuff already.
Maybe. Would you?
I've read. All right. So, for example, I looked up. I was thinking about joining the army, so I looked that up. Google it. Instantly, my Instagram Explore page starts coming up with tons of videos about the army and shit like that. I'd like that since I popped out the fucking womb. So that's better for me. I get to see more videos about guns and dudes doing army stuff. I saw a bunch of memes about the shitty part of army life, and that honestly helped me make a better decision about the army because it made me think about the other side of the coin of not flying around in the fucking helicopter and traveling the world. It made me see, okay, I'm going to be in a barracks all the time with a bunch of other depressed 22-year-olds.
Okay, you're right. I might have been thinking about it too black and white.
Yeah,
but
there's plenty of nuance. That's what I'm saying. There's, you guys, yes, I mean, those are big fucking problems, but once you understand the nuance of it, and then you can navigate it yourself. You can choose to when to take that pill, and that's pretty much how everything works in life.
It magnifies what's in you. So if you are looking for more information in many aspects, it will serve you that. Mm-hmm. Most people are not doing that.
And that's where, yes, I agree, but like the education system, how we teach ourselves from fucking day one needs to change.
I just think the vast majority is always going to be looking for a simple solution.
But we have an education system that was based for fucking factories in the 1890s. Like that's why people don't fucking. And before that, it's always been of some form of a dictatorship, whether it's left or right or a kingdom.
Matt, what you said
and people
was
were not meant to fucking think critically, and we live in a time period where it's actually a good thing to think critically.
The reason I
be your
brought
own
this up is because you said you didn't understand how that mechanism was threatening to democracy, right?
Yeah.
Do you see how it's threatening to democracy now, though? Well, the problem is,
of course. But those have always existed. Like, it magnifies what's already.
They've always existed,
but not to this
but now
extent.
computers and collected data on you is creating a feedback bubble for you, and it becomes harder to have public discourse via social media. That's why people are more radical now.
I don't know if I agree with
that. I think we have this problem. So you admitted that we have always had this problem.
Yeah.
Right. But we've also had social repercussions to this problem, which keeps it in check relatively. Right. Now
I think
this has gone crack, and this is doing nothing.
Yeah.
This is just sitting here until you go outside, like you said, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But
when you go outside,
I think this is an important part. Can we go back to like this level?
Yeah.
So all right. So everybody, like, these are just exacerbations of the human condition, and then it goes up to this level where it's social repercussions before social media. They balance it out.
Relatively.
Yeah. Obviously, there's extremes and shit like that. I don't see where. I mean, dude, like, there's nobody killing each other in the streets. Like, there's nobody beating it. Well, there is.
Yeah, but Matt, you're a history person. Yeah. You know that doesn't happen until something happens. Until Franz Ferdinand gets killed. Yeah. You know, like it can bubble first.
Yeah, but those people are already bubbling. Like I mean,
and we are bubbling now. That's what we're saying.
Matt, I think what Jim is trying to say is that, like, the problem is that our ideology is becoming too extreme, way more extreme than it ever would have if all public discourse happened in real life in front of, because you are naturally more empathetic in front of people. You're naturally more cautious around mobs that you see in the street, and people's
or you're more likely to join it.
Dude,
it's intoxicating to be in a fucking mob, especially for people who don't.
I agree, but
have anything to live for.
But you don't have the same reaction to a Twitter mob that you do to an actual mob, and you don't call the government in on a Twitter mob. You know, like you don't call the arm, like a mob can get bad enough that the National Guard goes in and says you're fucking done. There's tanks here now.
I also want to add to this. Part of the
just let Jim finish. Sorry.
No, you're right.
But there's the problem of, if you go on Twitter and somebody says something that pissed you off, what if the algorithm starts showing you all the comments that you agree with that say that person's an asshole and they're wrong, and they hide the ones that you don't like?
But I don't think that doesn't happen.
Well, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. I mean, it happens.
That's what they're doing with the collected data. They're showing you content that you think you are going to like more.
It is and it isn't. If you click on the post, then it will show you all of them. But in your Twitter feed, it shows you such and such responded to this post. Such and such also responded to this post. So you're seeing all this shit that's reinforcing your belief system. And I actually think this is one of the reasons the conservatives are a little more insulated from this, is because they tend to follow
they say
everybody.
They follow everybody, so they have a diverse
and liberals tend not to do that, which is a problem. And I think that's, but I'm not trying to insinuate that conservatives are like safe from this. I just think that it takes more time.
The thing is, conservatives, like old school conservatives, maybe, but the alt-right, they get super condensed.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's like you're a certain type of person to be all right.
Totally.
Well,
I totally agree with you.
So here's the other thing that makes it really dangerous.
Okay.
Matt, is that, like, the other half of this is that this feedback loop that happens, that those ideologies that brew on the internet, they happen anonymously. You don't care about the other person that has the opposing viewpoint when you see it as a tweet. You see it as that's a disgusting person and I hate them. But you wouldn't think about that if we were having.
But people did that anyway.
Called for the doxing of a 16-year-old child.
Sure, but people.
Reza Aslan called for him to be punched in the face. Neither of them have apologized.
Reprehensible acts. However, like, dude, like, that's been going on for fucking ever. Like, there are slavery in this country, man. Like, people treated children as chattel.
I'm not trying to say we should silence them. I'm saying it's like the Tim Pool argument. You know, if that's allowed on the platform, I mean, you gotta acknowledge the bias too of the people running it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to set up a morale. Like they think they have set up things fairly because everybody always thinks they have.
Well, they're working on it. Both those podcasts, they said they were like, we're doing a terrible job of that, and we're working.
I think Twitter's fucked in the long run. To be honest,
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna last the way it is.
Here's my last point. This was another thing that Roger McNamee talked about during his speech. This is what I asked him about.
Mm-hmm.
I said, he said during his speech, I think I'm addicted to Facebook, right? I think a lot of people would agree that social media has become addictive.
When was the last time you went 24 hours without looking?
I mean, now that I don't have a Facebook, it's not a
mean,
problem.
Yeah, but that's what smokers say. I could do it if you wanted to.
I've gone on 10-day silent meditation retreats. I can do it.
I get it, but
like I choose not to for I want a social life. It's a social mechanism. It's part of our culture. I choose it. It's a necessary evil. It's what it is, and I also like it.
But hold on.
Derive a lot of pleasure from it.
I wasn't finished.
Sure. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Both cut you off.
Social media is addictive, and I went up to the question I asked him was, listen, you said you believe you're addicted to Facebook,
mm-hmm.
and I said, I was raised by two alcoholics, and I was raised to believe that addiction is a mental disorder that should be taken really seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do you think Facebook is aware that they're contributing to the mental health crisis in the United States right now? Okay. Yeah. Part of the other problems is when the feedback bubble that collected data can have on your opinions and your ideology is that you become addicted to the ideology. Is that these reinforcements are echo chambers that are literally burrowing into the deepest part of your ego, because social media taps into a behavioral addiction that's almost as strong as chemical addictions. Literally, it's kind of like a new study. We're just barely scratching the surface of research about this, about like what the real difference is between the level of addictions you can have to screen time and addictions that's
probably pretty important to know in debate.
And there's still a lot we don't know, and there are differences that behavioral addiction is not the same thing as biochemical addiction, but there's a lot of overlap there, and getting yourself off of the addictive mechanism is still very, very hard. It still has a lot of negative impacts on your emotions and your emotional health and your mental health. And when you overlap that, when you color that all with politics, it makes it that much harder to let go of your really toxic political beliefs and go like, I need to have like a discussion with a human being about this. You can say you're as woke as you want, and that it's a good thing that you can make yourself self-aware and know that those feedback bubbles exist, but it's like prying yourself away off of a drug.
Yeah, dude, and that happens in any, like, regardless of social media. Like in the beer hall push, like, do you think all those Nazis who were they were exactly like the people who were in the fucking little feedback bubbles that exist on social media, except they did it in a beer hall. It's definitely exacerbated, and it's definitely different here on social media, but it is essentially the same thing. It's essentially the same problem, and that's the only thing. Dude, this happens. What you just described, that pattern of unaddicting yourself, is basically the process of personal growth. Like, you first have to realize, oh fuck, this is a problem, and that happens from like slamming your head against the fucking wall, proverbially, hundreds of times, thousands of times. Like, that's what happens. Like, and it's hard. Like, it's a fucking paradox in a certain sense, because like, you don't wake up until you wake up. Like, no one can really do that for you except when you're ready, and God knows how that happens. So like, we can do our best. I think we put our best foot forward, and we hope for the best, and we work with all the extrinsities, but I think this is an eternal problem. It's just exacerbated.
I do agree with you that the ultimate solution here is self-development. I mean, I do agree with that, but like you said, you can't force people to do it. And the question is, how far do you let it go before the people who are working on themselves say, that's far enough, you fucking asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, because I have a door, I have a lock on that door.
Yeah,
that lock says, that's far enough, you fucking assholes.
Exactly.
That's what that door means.
Like, you're an unconscious, you're probably like, you don't want drug addicts coming in here.
Exactly.
You have all the love and compassion for them in the world, but you still don't want them cuddling up to you at night.
I do have kind of a real world, and if anybody who's friends with me and has been friends with me for years happens to listen to this far into the podcast,
how far are we?
I don't know. They will totally agree with me. Like, you got to take my word for this. I spent, I don't know how many years trying to convince people, saying crazy things on social media who I knew were reasonable people.
Wait, you were saying crazy things?
No. I was trying to use the platform
to
convince people who were saying crazy things, who I know are reasonable people, that they're wrong on this one thing. My success rate is 0.
Yeah, it's almost
like
almost
my success
impossible.
rate. Like, and I would spend days ask thousands of comments, trying to use this platform. I challenge you to try, find a reasonable person.
It's almost impossible on social media, and I think that's why more people have gone to podcasts and YouTube videos, because it's a tiny bit more human.
It's an open question too. People are trying to pursue knowledge as opposed to iterate an idea.
The reason I bring that up is because I see it as like this is two-sided problem. One, it's very easy to get locked into what you already believe further, and two, it's very, very, very hard to hear anybody who's saying anything different from that.
Yeah.
And that seems to be emanating off the internet into regular culture. So I think
that's where I disagree. I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's a bottom-up thing. I don't think it's. Well, I mean, it's probably both, but I think it's mostly a human condition thing.
I don't know, man. I mean, the more and more I go places,
honestly,
the less I feel like I can say anything.
Give it a shot, man.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
But then you also have to realize that you're not a lot of people like politics in the fucking first place. Like, America is a weird thing too. Like, where Europe has a more political consciousness and people are more able to freely chat back and forth about like political issues and contentious issues.
I mean, like,
America has a more, for whatever reason, we have a more kind of gut emotional reaction to be uncomfortable.
Probably because of how our country started.
Yeah,
I mean,
and the Civil War.
We're kind of an anomaly in that way.
The whole race.
I made this argument last week that I said what I thought made America so great, but I didn't say what America lacks. Remember last week I said what I think makes America so great is this balance between utilitarian pragmatism, so the market demands and it provides, with human rights, which requires a certain spirituality, morality. There's a balance there that we are constantly trying to keep balanced well, so the scales don't tip too far either way. The bad part is that America has been disconnected from its past. We do not consider ourselves. We are an Anglican country, kind of, but we don't have, like, Europe has thousands of years of evolution. Like, it has thousands of years of history,
cultural evolution,
right? And we kind of severed that. We kind of said we're different. We're not like that. Yeah. And so, but you can't really do that. Yeah. You can't really do that. You can't sever yourself from the past. So that's where America, I think, struggles, is this sort of false belief that we're beyond history. History never ends. You're always in it.
Yeah.
You're in
it. You're dealing with, totally. And to that degree, Europe kind of gets stuck in, from what I hear about people talking about Europe and like working there and living there, they're stuck in their past. So it's kind of two different sides, like the similar problems on two different sides of the coin, of like being stuck too far in tradition, being mired down by tradition, and then also on our side, not trusting tradition enough and constantly going too far beyond into the woods and leaving the village. Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, but it's like, and that's cool as fuck, because we're descendants of that. We're like, we have that built in. Like, there's of the vast iterations of people, we still have that fucking fucking ballsiness to be like, fuck it, we're gonna go over there where there be monsters and we're gonna try to fucking live. We're just gonna give it our best shot. Like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, to be that human being, either you really fucked up in the country you were living, or you got some balls. Like, it's cool as fuck, man. Like, yeah. So, I mean, but it also comes with problems. Like, it's definitely
everything that's good is also bad. I mean,
exactly. You can't. That's what I'm finding out more and more, is like, there's no good with the bad. Like, everything comes with a cost.
That's why
no free lunch.
That's why I'm making the argument that we're just not ready for the tool. I'm not saying we can get rid of it. We obviously can't. But I don't think we're quite ready to handle the tools we've created.
Whether we're ready or not, they're here. That's my point, I guess.
I agree with you.
We gotta fucking put our best foot forward and stumble up the hill.
We do, but maybe we should be a little careful about how we handle this.
You're not. I
think that's what the social evolution is that people are naturally self-correcting right now. Yeah. They're going, I don't like Facebook. I don't like Twitter.
Yeah, I agree.
I confuse so many people on the concept of net neutrality, because I'm such in favor of it and against it at the same time. Because it's something that I for years I was like, if we don't have neutrality on the internet, we're all fucked. The whole thing becomes TV. It's like, it's not, it has to be equal connections. And I've explained many times why it's not the way that the ISPs explain it. Like, you are paying for bandwidth, but the way that they want to do it, throttle and things like that, it doesn't make sense. But then like people say, so you want regulation? And I'm like, I don't know about that, because that makes me really nervous. That makes me. What I want is a bill of rights for the internet,
dude. Yeah, that should probably happen. But people did that with like water. Like companies would just buy up fucking streams and property, and then they would dump a shit ton of fucking garbage in there. So like it's a fundamental human right and a need for access. If companies like just fully tethered to profit, and obviously this is a different time, I'm talking about like the 1820s, 1840s as like my case example. When those companies fucking run shit, they have a proclivity to fuck it up for everybody else. It's a tragedy of the commons, maybe not, I don't know, but something like that. They fucking become greedy fucks, and the government needs to step in and regulate those fundamental basic human rights. And then once we get to on top of that, then it's up to personal development.
Yeah, I would love to see a bill of rights that is the same as, not the same words, but like the idea is government shall not, instead have like ISPs shall not.
Yeah.
It's like a list of things that people can memorize and be like, you can't do that. That's against my rights. I'm not paying for you.
Yeah.
Like if you get that into the consciousness and be like, then you can grow. I've made the analogy before that the internet is like the sea. It is not a nation. It doesn't belong to any nation.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think,
do you
think the internet
water.
should be regulated like a public utility?
No,
I'm
against that.
How is that? I don't quite know how those are regulated.
I just think it'll stifle innovation.
Yeah, okay.
It's nothing more than that. It's that I think assuming the government can come up with a way to do it, I think it would be very hard to change moving forward should something better come along, and I think that puts us in danger for other countries that don't do it. So, you know what I mean by that? Like, I don't want to disincentivize innovators from coming up with better solutions for how to connect us together.
Well, you want more innovators like Zuckerberg? It's getting to a point. It's like, are there any positive innovations left?
This is great. This is actually great because like that's actually the tension I have within myself. It's like I don't want more Zuckerbergs, but I don't want there to be no one, because I want like this is where I'm going to side with you. I believe in human ingenuity, and like there's somebody out there's the anti-Zuckerberg, like just waiting to be found. And Elon Musk, great example. I don't know. I don't have a great solution to it. I really don't. One of the things I do think is like I do think that if a platform, step one, I think everyone would agree with, and I've been saying this for like 3 years. If a company if a company is labeled as a neutral platform and it decides it wants to censor speech that is not against the law, then our government should say, you are now a publisher. You are now liable for everything on your. If you want to take control, if you want to decide what's okay or not, then you take responsibility for everything that is said on your platform.
I think social media should be treated differently than other private interests or private corporations that we've had throughout history. And the reason I believe this is there's an idea in economics called network externalities, which means that, like, throughout most of history, if you build something that costs XYZ dollars to build, you can sell it at a higher price and make a profit. There's supposedly people who are paying money for that good. Let's say if a couple hundred years ago it's a pair of shoes or a ship or a bridge or whatever.
People are buying bridges.
Well, I mean, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People buy things and they pay what they think the value of it is.
Sure.
Social media is a little bit different because right now we don't pay for it, and B, it experiences network externalities, which means they're only useful if everybody uses it, or if an overwhelmingly large number of people use it. If only 2% of the population used Facebook, it'd be a useless tool.
Yeah, no one really.
So it almost is subject by it's like speech is useful because you can communicate with anyone that you run into on the street. Facebook exists in it's a tool that everybody uses.
Yeah,
and it's become overwhelmingly popular and overwhelmingly powerful because it's just the application of free speech into digital means. You can reach anyone with it. So why wouldn't you decide that, okay, the United States or any governing body should come up with rules or should apply its governance, via free speech, should apply that to the biggest network in the world that exists that allows free speech.
I don't disagree, but that's I like my solution. I admit it's kneecapping any company that goes above and beyond the American Constitution, because I do think that's better. I don't trust anyone to censor more speech than the Constitution allows for. I just don't trust anyone to do that on the scale that they're able to do that. I
agree. I just think that's a way more gray concept than you think it is.
Like, I mean, I agree. It's gray, but that's why it's not up to Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah,
it's
up to the courts.
Yeah, like maybe there's some kind of regulation for certain things that they need to notify the local law enforcement about or something. Okay. I mean, maybe there's something in there. I don't know.
Yeah,
so that to me sounds like regulation. I think we are saying the same. This is one of those instances of where we're saying the same thing but in different terms.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like you want total laissez-faire.
No.
Yeah.
No. I'm saying that if it's against the law, then your company better be against that, okay. And you better work with law enforcement. Mm-hmm. But if it's not against the law,
right now,
you can't stop it.
Now, Twitter is now doing things that they're censoring on their own behalf, and not,
Right. Who are you? Like, this is the problem. This is the problem with hate speech. Yeah. It's the problem with hate speech. Who defines what's hate?
Right.
Yeah. It's always going to be the problem with hate speech, and it's one of the reasons I acknowledge hate speech exists. I acknowledge it's fucked up and repugnant and disgusting. Mm-hmm. I am very glad there are no hate speech laws in this country, because
that's where it lets you know where the bigots are.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather know. I would rather know, and I would rather the people who are victim to it be in a position where more people can be like, dude, we got you.
It's like it's
dude. That's why. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's got to be up to people who are like personally developed and realize this this bigoted person is speaking out of insecurity, out of trauma, out of God knows what.
Right.
And the vast majority of the people, hey, we're fucking healthy. We think critically. That's why I think it's really an education system thing. We have to foster this from the very early beginning. And I think our education system fails in this greatly. We have to foster I don't know if it's like some fucking kind of Greek school, but like where people are engaging in dialogue, they're highly socialized from a fucking early age on, talking about contentious issues. Like if we delay it, then it's just like, okay, you're just delaying and coddling a person up until then they're gonna hit the real world eventually. You might as well have them fucking like it's like a Spartan warrior. Like he's gonna start training at like 7. He's not gonna go into war until 21. But he starts at 7. So by the time he's 21, he's fucking prepared, as opposed to him starting at 21, having to go and also into battle at 21.
He's Samurai
Jack.
I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
What?
He's Samurai Jack.
I love that show. That show's fucking awesome.
What do you think about this?
Sure.
What if Twitter and let's say let's just use Twitter. What if Twitter had like a wall of shame? Which is like,
oh no,
like,
dude,
this
is
like
joking.
Wait.
Let
me hear me out, because I know what you're thinking.
Shame.
So if you could anonymously shame people,
anonymously.
Right? Wait, watch. What the reason? There's a reason I'm saying anonymously. You
know.
anonymously shame people so that the wall of shame reflects what people actually think. Because conservatives are not going to report people.
Why? Why would making it anonymous be better?
Because all I want is a number. I just want people to see. People
like
think this is shameful. This behavior is shameful. I want people to see. This is the list of repugnant shit.
It might actually be good.
That people, right? You understand what I'm doing? Like it's almost a sort of social shaming. It's like if I go to a bar and say a terrible word.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to look at me like I'm the worst thing in the world. But that doesn't happen on Twitter. It'd be great.
But even you say fuck, like what? Like, well, I guess it wouldn't make it to the wall.
I don't think people would vote for it. But if they said the N-word, or if they said something horribly hateful,
like you're going to go up on the wall,
then you're going to end up on the wall. And then the people who are victim to that can be like, man, see, everybody's on my fucking side.
This
is why
I would like to have my friend Nissan come on
to
the podcast next week.
Okay.
He's an economist, and one of the first really interesting thing he described to me in the world of economics is that we have goods, right, that we sell in a market. We also have bads.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're describing is the free speech version of bads.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like that we sell and buy, like
no. Right. They're goods.
Social...
They're goods that you pay other people money for, so that you can have them. So you have access to them. People will bring them to you. We also have bads, which means you will pay people money to get them out of your view, out of your life, out of your environment, like trash or whatever, right?
Yeah, sure.
what you just described is exactly that. Shame, like public shame, is just, it's a feeling we don't want.
Yeah.
It's an experience we try to go out of our way to not have. On social media, all we have are likes.
Yeah.
Right. And social media is designed to reinforce things that are social goods.
Yeah, but they have on thumbs down on YouTube.
But I don't want it to be a thumbs down. I want it to be a button that you only like. It's the shame button. It's not like I disagree with this. I don't like this.
Are you going to iterate that though across like many emotions? Because like you're like favoriting this emotion. Like it's not that it's not an important emotion. But you're just like you're putting this one emotion on a pedestal and saying this is judge, jury, and executioner. And if that's what it seems like to me, like you're going to have to be able to dish it because sometimes the crowd can be wrong.
It can be wrong, but it lets you know. You know,
I don't like this because it's not like in a government, like in a judge, in a fucking like the body of your peers, and having a judge there. You have the balance between like somebody who's like a kind of a dictator and a judge, and then balanced with like a legislature, like a body of people.
That's what's
like
happening to people from hate speech, and why Twitter feels the need to jump in is because of the exact reverse of that.
Yeah,
where they feel like the mob, and I really, I mean, this is my.
But that seems to me like what you're setting up.
This is the hope in human beings is that you'll end up a wall of shame that's genuinely repugnant.
I think
awful
what,
shit.
I think what Jimmy, let me see if this is how you want it. Like I'll try and put it into different words. I think what Jim means is the way social media is set up currently is that everything is based on likes. Everything is based on popularity. Certain hate speech gets censored, and as it gets censored and pushed underground, it makes the people who espouse hate speech more angry, and it makes their followers more enraged.
Builds those bubbles,
and their victims.
It builds the bubbles. If you had
and their victims feel like no one can see it.
Yes, if you have a shame wall, that becomes corrective. It helps ameliorate hate speech instead of
it also if you happen to agree. Like, I can think of some shameful things, I think objectively shameful, that people think is good. Like a lot of people, a lot of reasonable people. But if it ends up on the wall, it helps you recognize, wow,
a lot of people
I am totally out of touch.
I am, dude. Like, I don't know. But dude, like, I'm just thinking of Puritan towns in the 1600s where you had like the adulterer and the fucking stocks and shit like that. Like, I don't think we need to go back to that. Like, I think we're doing pretty fucking good. Like, because like back in the day,
a bad thing.
No, it's not. No, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it can be taken too far in a lot of instances. It's a very strong.
Do you think hate speech is disgusting?
I mean, I might feel that way, but I don't think it is that because I try to take a more objective view and just think it's.
I think you think it's necessary, but still.
Yeah, necessary. I don't know about that. I mean, I might experience it as disgusting. Yeah. Like I'd have to think about that more. I might agree with you, but I don't.
If you're, well, the fear is like there's going to be seen as cyberbullying. That's
what I'm thinking about. 14-year-old girls too who end up on that, and they're just like can't fucking handle it. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening right now.
The people you follow. This is a wall of shame.
Yeah, I like that because it's objective. It's just kind of like you can have the data here. It's like you just know the data.
Next to trending, we have trending,
and then like
and shameful.
Yeah.
You know
what's it's like trending is like the popular, and then like this is the most.
It'd be very interesting if you saw.
It'd be cool.
Shameful things trending.
Or just two separate like two separate data, two separate like.
No, but you understand.
Yeah.
Like I'm
kind
of saying.
I like it, but
trending goods and trending bads.
Yeah,
trending
exactly.
Popular sentiments.
Trending shames. Yeah.
Trending shameful.
I really think it would help the victims of hate speech because, and I know that they'd be.
Gets it out in the open for sure. I like that idea, but I just don't know where because we've already done this. Like this has been done experimentally in those like Puritan towns.
The embarrassment would be humbling for people who espouse hate speech, whereas being censored feels like
empowering. It's empowering.
Yeah,
you censor me if you're censored, it's empowering.
It's empowered to be censored.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's an injustice.
It feeds you. It feeds you that ego. It says I'm so right.
It makes you a victim. It gives you leverage to talk to other people.
Okay.
I've been censored.
Some people take it that way, but some people also are devastated.
Okay, if it's not you personally, it's the people who agree with you.
So once again, some people would do that, but like not everybody's gonna react that way.
I think people like Alex Jones definitely
but he's a fucking outlier.
Right, but that's what all those crazy nut alt-right.
Can you think of?
I can't.
But we're talking about outliers, man. Like if you do this to like regular people, like I don't think that's.
But the outliers are the people.
They are outliers.
Those are the people.
All the people on the shame wall.
Those are the people that we're talking about that we would like to have a solution for because those are the people that are making social media dangerous.
Well, but then. That's like saying like life. I mean, life is dangerous. Like everything's dangerous.
No, I agree with you.
Like people.
There's also this problem. If a platform censors somebody, and I didn't know that this person was bad, I might think, the platform's terrible. They
Yeah.
censored this person. He's not a bad person. I
Yeah.
like that person.
Yeah.
But if instead he's on the shame wall and I see what he said,
Yeah.
I'll be like, look at that fucking asshole. I'm not friends with you anymore.
But why, dude? Like, but that's like you're partaking in the mob right there. You're not actually like duly considering it. Like you're just saying, oh, everybody thought this way, so I'm gonna think this way. You're setting up
positive reinforcement alone doesn't work. You need negative.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you with that. But you're still like setting up like a fucking mob. But it's just popular opinion. And that's not always
is a worse mob. If you censor,
no, but that's why you have an expert. That's why you have like a judge.
Oh God, I don't believe in experts. I mean, I'm called an expert at work.
You can't have it. You're gonna have it.
You know way more about computer science than me. I don't want to fuck around with computer science for 8 hours.
Real experts know they're not experts.
Sure, yeah, but you're still objectively more knowledgeable in a subject than somebody else.
Not enough to decide. I'm not enough for me to decide what speech is allowed or not.
Yeah, I'm not saying you. We're not signing you up for this.
No one.
Okay, time
dude,
out.
I think there's people like philosophers, judges.
After this sentence, time out.
Yeah, dude, there are people who are.
So you want to legislate hate speech?
Time out.
No, I didn't say that.
Time out.
I'm just saying in your hypothetical shame wall thing.
All right, I'm going to try and piece together this conversation.
Sure.
Having a wall of shame is like super duper controversial.
Sure.
And I'm glad you're being the devil's advocate here because I
Yeah.
don't want to just agree wholeheartedly with Jim.
I think hell is paved. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Sure.
That's
But
what it feels like.
Let me put it and you're right. Like having a judge for this kind of stuff. Now the judge is what's the guy's name that runs Twitter?
Jack Dorsey.
Yes.
Dorsey, yeah.
Right now Jack Dorsey is the judge. That is the problem.
He's actually not.
He's not. Yeah,
it's the lawyers.
It's the lawyer. Yeah, it's a group.
Well,
a team
right.
of lawyers.
It's the team that works for Twitter, right?
Yeah.
But that's the point. Is the judge is not people we elect or part of our government.
Yeah,
the judge is part of the corporate entity of Twitter. So if you had a wall of shame, it would just be a replacement for censorship. I think is what he means.
Yes. Don't censor them. Have a wall of shame.
Yes.
I think it's an imperfect solution, but I would prefer it to.
I think we. Okay, go ahead. Finish.
You can also.
I agree with you, and I agree with you. I think a wall of shame would be an interesting experiment. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these are just like they're thought experiments right now.
Oh, totally. I mean, we're not.
I don't think it is though. Like, dude, that's what we do, man. That's what people have been fucking figuring out. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like that's why we have a dialectic between a judge and a jury. You get the fucking popular opinion, you get the mob, and then you have an expert. Like
right
checking
now,
that mob. They check each other. It's a dialectic.
That's what
right
they're
now.
doing.
There's no jury.
But that's what they're doing right now.
There is the jury. The jury is the popular opinion. Who's ever get fucking upvoted or downvoted
or popular opinion. It's the popular opinion of what's shameful.
Yes.
Okay.
So how is that?
There is
no
down.
It's not. I'm not saying one or the other is better. I'm saying they need each other. They need to be a dialectic. Need to interact with each other. You can't have one or the other.
I'm okay with that.
Can't have one or the other.
Matt, right
Because
now
there is the risk. There is the risk.
They go both of them go bad both ways. But when they work together, then they that's the best.
There's
option
the risk
we have.
of hacking it. You know, like
gaming it for sure, dude. That's the bots. You can game the fuck out of the. That's what the bots are doing. That's what they did successfully.
Well, that makes me.
And that's why you have an expert, a singular expert to.
But that makes me think of the whole the Periscope solution. Which is
they create
where you
like
vote.
a jury,
but I really want it to be shame based. I really do. I really want these people to feel as bad as they would had they said it in reality.
Dude, but
that is a good point.
Like
That is a very good point.
I don't want them to feel good. I don't want them to feel anything but awful. I want them to feel publicly shamed the way you would if you said the N-word in public.
If
I went to a coffee place and said the N-word to a black person, can you imagine how I would feel?
If you're that kind of person to do, you kind of like feed off that.
I don't think so.
If you're like what's the church that like shows up to funerals and says God hates fags?
Sure, but
if you're that type of person, that's probably the person who's going to say that.
The type of people who say it aren't going to do it. They're going to say it in private on Twitter. Like they're gonna go on Twitter and they're gonna be like, I know that person. I know his Twitter handle. I'm gonna go fucking harass him on Twitter later. Yeah. I'm gonna use the N-word and say awful things to him. Get all my friends to do it. Yeah. Make him feel awful. Maybe he'll fucking kill himself. Yeah. You know, like that's the kind of shit that's happening.
But all right, let's try to like transcend that. Like if all right, so say you said the N-word at a coffee shop in front of a black person and you did not do it. You're not like one of the.
No, I'm saying to them. But
are you doing it out of spite? Or are you doing it like what's the context? Like why are you
the
doing
way
that?
they do it on Twitter? Like the thing that would
are you spiteful? Like you're trying to insult them?
Imagine what would end up on the shame wall.
No, but just answer my question. Like in this hypothetical situation in your real life, and you said something like, what emotion are you saying with it? Are you doing it out of ignorance or are you doing it out of spite?
I'm talking about the stuff on Twitter we're trying to stop.
I know, but just answer, like, stay with me in the hypothetical.
That I'm answering you. The answer is the type of shit that people actually say on Twitter.
Yeah,
but
they
would
say
never
a lot of shit.
But they would never say in real life. They'd never do it.
So you're saying it's spiteful? Like you're not answering my question. Are you? What's the emotional?
I
What's the
think
intent?
we've reached
I'm asking intent.
I
What's the intent?
I don't know. I'm not them. You know, I don't care. I don't care their intent. I'm disgusted by it.
But then you're painting too broad a brush, because if it's out of ignorance, then you have to instruct that person, because if you respond with shame, hold on.
But you can't.
Hold on. If you respond to shame and anger out of ignorance, then that person does not learn that lesson. If you respond to shame and ignorance against anger, then that is the correct.
Shame is the proper response. It's the social response all children get when they act like assholes. If you act like a little asshole with all your friends, they're going to shame you.
That's part of it.
We have reached an official point of cognitive dissonance.
Not really.
Between you two.
You
might not realize it because
I think they're personality differences, but I'm just trying to say.
Maybe cognitive is the wrong word, but I am watching this conversation, and you are not going to reach an agreement tonight. I just promise you.
I agree with that, but I'm not. I think we've got more to say though.
Yeah, me too. I feel like we're moving forward. Right. I don't feel stagnated.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
You think that you can educate away a lot of things. And I don't.
I think there's at least a possibility. I think you have to leave the door open. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
I'm not closing the door to it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're coming down with a hammer blow too fast on that. Like,
no, I'm saying they're using the hammer already, and we can't stop them except by censoring them or something else.
Well,
but censoring them makes it worse.
But I'm asking the intent behind the hammer blow. If the intent behind the hammer blow is ignorance, then you have to educate, like, hey, this hammer is for this specific job. Okay, and when you use it for this, you're hurting other people because it's a hammer.
I don't know how to answer the question you're asking me, because
intent. That's the question you have to.
I can't know their intent.
You have to ask it. You have to understand.
It doesn't. Okay, when it comes to hate speech, does intent matter that much?
No, because if it's hate speech, then it's probably out of. But that's it. Yeah, intent does matter.
Why?
Because, dude, like I just been explaining. Do you see the difference between intent of ignorance?
Okay.
Because there's no intent of harm.
It's one of the
there,
assholes who just shot 49 people.
Okay, clearly his intent. What was the fucking intent?
His intent.
He knows what he's doing.
He fucking hates everybody who's not white.
Yes.
And he wants you to know it.
Yes.
And he wants you to feel like shit. And hopefully make you kill yourself.
Yes.
That's his intent.
Yeah.
He's
garbage.
Right,
now you're
person.
answering my question. Yes.
He's a garbage person.
Yes.
Happens on Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
That's what Jack Dorsey's warning us against.
Sure. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I believe him. Mm-hmm. I believe there's a bunch of shit like that on there, and I think the loudest minority is disgusting. It's like on almost all sides of everything. The very loud minority is usually disgusting. And it comes out on Twitter in a horrible way.
Can I say?
But
go ahead.
But this is one. Remember, I used that whole you have social there's a response. Yeah. But on Twitter, there's nothing but censorship, and that only emboldens them. It emboldens their followers. It makes them go to Gab, and then they get worse over there. Yeah. So
exactly.
Why not leave them on the platform and make them feel as shitty as they would had they been?
Because I still think the net effect is the same thing.
I disagree, because then no one would leave to go to Gab. There's good reasons to go to Gab, and there's bad reasons to go to Gab.
Yeah.
If Twitter maintained free speech, there'd be no good reason to go to Gab.
Yeah. But all right, but when I would just say rehabilitation would be the thing. Like if you're just constantly shaming these people, there's no transcendence of like what is wrong with their behavior. You're not actually addressing their behavior in a transcendent manner. You're just constantly
the person
wait, hold on. You're just constantly like playing whack-a-mole with their fucking behavior.
Yes.
It's like, oh, there it is again. Whack it again.
I
whack
agree,
it again.
Because you can't rehabilitate somebody who doesn't want to be rehabilitated.
The idea is if they experience shame, the point is if they experience shame, that's what will cause the rehabilitation. They have to have the emotional.
We're social animals.
We're
social animals.
Yeah.
And if your social environment is telling you what you are is disgusting, you're much more likely to be like, I gotta figure this shit out because I need friends.
I might have another.
But it also it can also spiral off into the fucking Moss guys, like the people who shoot things up. That's what happened.
I would argue that the censoring is way
much.
worse for that.
Matt.
Like the censoring is way more.
But what
pushing
started it? What was the start?
I think I'm gonna try and take words out of your mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think another point that Jim wants to make is that the experience of these people who are espousing hate speech is important to their personal correction. And I think what he's saying is the experience of being on a shame wall versus the experience of being censored is fundamentally different. And that's what.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think if you censor people, that seems like an injustice, and that makes those alt-right wings or those extremist positions worse. Whereas if you experience shame, shame is like knowing you did something wrong and knowing like, oh shit, I need to look inside myself to fix this, and maybe I need to do some corrective work. I need to just change my behavior.
For some people, might react that way.
For some people, but I think it's over. I think there are enough people. I think more people would react to that. Even alt-right people, even really crazy wingnuts, would react to shame differently and more positively and more correctively than they would if they were censored.
I agree with you.
I actually see this as leaving the door open, because I see there's two alternatives. We're not going to just that you can't rehabilitate somebody who doesn't ask for it. You just can't. You can't go to somebody's house, knock on the door, and be like, hey, you're an asshole, and here's why, and I'm gonna fix you. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But so there's two options. Using the cafe example, either somebody kicks you out and says you're never fucking allowed here again.
Yeah.
Or everybody stops and looks at you like the asshole you are, and you leave knowing I could go back there, but I can't because I'm a complete asshole. Yeah. One of those might result in you changing in deciding I can't do this. Yeah. But the other one, you get kicked out and you're like, those fucking assholes, they can't handle it. They can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth that he's a whatever, right? Yeah. Like, it just emboldens it. I just I don't see a third option.
I'm not okay, so that's what I'm trying to paint. Those two options are there, but I think maybe your disgust is blinding you to the third option, which is the rehabilitation, the education. And I don't know if you're denying that possibility, or maybe you haven't experienced it. Because say if that person does say the N word, and you're like, hey, dude, that's really not cool here. If you take that approach, I'm not saying, and it's all context based, and that's why I'm saying intent is very important, because that's the context.
I don't trust people to decide who needs rehabilitation and what, because that's why.
But you're just saying you are, because you're.
But how does that manifest? You're making
a judgment.
How does that manifest on social media?
I am as an individual.
I don't know about social media, but there is so for example, the prison systems in like Norway and Sweden, they're extremely rehabilitation based, and their recidivism rate. So, but these are this is the social game that we're playing on social media. This is in real life.
But are you going to put these people in prison?
So these people are in prison. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in real life. Somehow we have to translate this to social media world. I don't know what that is.
Well, but I don't know.
My point is the recidivism rate here in the U.S., where we have this very shame and punishment based oriented paradigm. The recidivism rate is fucking astronomical. It's well above 50%. That's not fucking good. That's the whack-a-mole attempt. That works for some people, and some people are like, hey, this fucking shame is changing me, this is affecting me, so I got to change. For a lot of people, it's just fucking whack-a-mole.
True, I agree.
So, and then the recidivism, so you're not ultimately, you're fixing the problem for one, it's an avenue. It works for 10 to 20% of people. For most people, it's got to be an educational thing. You got to rehabilitate them. If you're constantly playing whack-a-mole, you're hitting yourself against a fucking brick wall. You're running into the same problem over and over again. You're not actually, you're just spending a shit ton of energy on the same problem. You're not actually transcending the problem.
Matt, do you think the feedback?
You're operating at the same level. That's what it is.
Do you think the feedback bubbles that data collectors impose on people who use social media is going to educate people, or is it just going to create an echo chamber for those people?
Sorry, can you say it again?
I agree with you. I know what you're talking about.
Well, you're saying the way to get rid of hate speech or the way to get rid of bigotry is via education.
One way. I'm saying your guys' way is one way as well. I'm just saying it doesn't work all the time. You're using a hammer for every single fucking job out there.
In a perfect world, a holistic approach would be the best one.
Yes.
Right?
Well, here's the thing, though. Going to prison and being on a shame wall on Twitter are not the same thing. You go to prison, has serious impacts
really
on
close
your life.
Analogies.
I don't agree. You're not losing your ability to vote. You're not losing the ability to live in your house. You're not losing, you're not.
If you get kicked off, dude, your voice is essentially a vote, right? You get to say, hey, I like this idea, and I don't like this idea.
You're not getting kicked off. That's the whole point. You don't get kicked off. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but what we have now.
What we have now, you do get kicked off.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You're losing your voice and doing things like that. So you're saying keep them in the system,
but
you're not rehabilitating them. You're not changing. You're staying at one level.
You keep saying self-development is the answer, and then you're saying your job is to rehabilitate. How do you
facilitate that?
Self-development does not come from being rehabilitated. It comes from rehabilitating yourself. So I agree with you that there has to be a door to get back into it.
Yeah.
That I completely agree with. Maybe having it wiped from the history or something. I don't know. But I do understand what you're saying, but I don't see them as the same thing. Like going to prison, one, you are going to prison because there was a judge involved.
Yeah.
Like you went through the jury system. But like on Twitter, you just said something disgusting and awful. And I want the community to be able to say that's disgusting and awful, and so that people don't feel afraid of it.
But people do that anyway, right?
What?
Say it's disgusting and awful.
Yeah, but they all think that it's like widespread. They think that most people disagree with them.
Can you clarify who's they? Or are you just speaking generalities?
I am speaking in generalities. When people, because there is a shame problem on Twitter already, right? Agree?
Yeah.
Right.
That's mostly a left thing.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But if you could shame anonymously, you wouldn't be a left thing.
I don't know if that's good, man. Like because we've done this, but I don't know. I see. All right. So I think maybe where we have some fundamental differences, I see social media as an extrapolation of human nature. I think it's an exacerbated. So I think the solutions that we've kind of worked out already in real life are going to be.
I agree. That's why I want a shame
applicable.
wall.
But we don't shame. I mean, dude, I don't know. I just don't.
I mean, I'm not talking like you're there forever. I'm talking like today. It's always
trending.
moving.
It's trending.
It's trending. It's always moving.
I agree. But but that's the thing. Like with fucking like Puritan England in the 1620s, like you weren't always going to be in the stocks, but you were in the stocks for 3 days. Maybe that worked, but we don't do that anymore. You know, like maybe that's not the best analogy, but
it doesn't hurt them.
Dude, have you ever been in stocks? It's not too fucking comfortable.
No. Being on the shame wall.
Okay. No, it does. I think it. I mean, it does. It's definitely going to affect their life.
Do you think that people are going to end up on the shame wall who don't deserve it?
Probably, yeah.
You think so?
Absolutely.
I don't believe it. I guess I have more hope in people.
Come on, dude. There's so many failures of the justice system.
All right, I disagree with you here because there are people who get censored.
Of course, there's going to be people. Dude,
of course
there's going to. It's already happening, bro. Of course,
that's different. The reason it's different is because conservatives are never going to report people.
But
they will shame
That's
people.
not true.
Everybody will use the shame button.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
everybody's gonna use it. It's ubiquitous.
But conservatives do not use the report button because they're so free speech fundamentalists that they will not do something that they're worried would result in somebody they disagree with getting kicked off the platform. So I want a way that is neutral. Like the way that you if that cafe, it doesn't matter the politics of the people, it doesn't matter the personality, it doesn't matter anything. Everybody looks at that asshole like they're an asshole. And I just want those eyes, but I want them to be community eyes, not some central figure. You know,
I think it should be both. I see like I think like the community and the expert are a dialectic. It's the yin and the yang. Like they have to be.
What if you removed the name?
What do you mean?
If you removed the username, so it was just the text of what they said.
Like anonymous?
Yeah.
So the shame was anonymous.
I don't know if that's good though. Like there's different. I mean,
and then the quote was anonymous. So the person whose quote made it to the top of the shame list,
they'll know.
They'll know, but nobody else. Nobody will know that it was them.
They'll know. The people around them will know.
They'll see the idea extremely unpopular and go, "Oh shit!" People really think I'm a fucking loser.
Yeah.
So then it's not there forever. But the people who are around them, maybe the person affected might see it and be like, "Oh God, I feel a lot better now because people got my back." Yeah. And that person will know what I said was not liked by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the people around them will know this person.
Yeah, but I just think you create a morass of tradition, and then everybody because that's what happens, and then you lose the ability for innovation because just because everybody fucking doesn't like it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Like that is proven over and over again throughout history. A lot of ideas were not first liked.
Oh, I agree, but it's a way better solution than some central figure deciding what's good or bad.
I don't. That's what I'm not saying. It should just be a central figure. I'm saying it should be a combination of both. Because that's already what we have right now is with jury.
If it's a combination of both, the central figure wins. So it's yeah, it is.
Not necessarily.
How?
Bro, judge and jury. I don't know. I have to do more research.
Well,
this is really interesting. I think it's a good idea. I just don't know, when you get down to it, when you get to the actual interactions.
But you're seeing this shame wall as equivalent of going to jail, and I'm seeing it as the equivalent of being ashamed in public.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, but that's essentially what we do. Dude, Judge fucking Arpaio, you know that guy who's been on a bunch of TV shows.
Yeah, but
that's what he does though with drug addicts. All right, so this is what happens with drug addicts. People who are addicted to drugs, the last thing they need is fucking shame because they're numbing their lives because they feel pain every single day. So you're driving that. He walks people out, and thank God he's removed as sheriff. He doesn't do this anymore. But he walked drug addicts out with fucking T-shirts in chain gangs saying, "I am a drug addict. I am a drug addict, and people in Arizona would go up to them and fucking shame them. That does not solve their addiction. That does not. That drives it.
That's true.
That drives it.
That's true.
So that's exacerbated. That's all I'm saying is it's going to work for some people.
What if it was a hate speech button instead of a shame button? So you're labeling it hate speech.
The problem still remains, man. Like it's going to work for some people. It's a tool. It's a useful tool, but I'm saying it's just not going to work for everybody.
I guess I would rather know.
Sure, I think it's a good idea to try it out, but I think you have to account for the other people because, like, I think you're speaking from, and I'm probably doing the same thing. We have two different personalities, and we're speaking from our proclivities of what we like.
Yeah, totally.
So both of us have value, and it seems like I don't know if you're trying to argue me out thinking. I think they're both perspectives that are going to work for a certain amount of people or certain types of people.
I just don't see how my solution causes a problem for you, but your solution does cause a problem for me.
But I've described to you how your solution causes problems. But
my
right?
solution is 100% democratic. My solution is 100% democratic.
Mob justice is not necessarily democratic.
Actually, mob justice is the definition of true democracy, which is why we don't have one. We don't have a democracy. We would never want one.
Dude, but then you're playing down to tribalism.
Haven't we decided though via the way society's ended up today that like Republican democrats are a little bit better than mob democracy?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
But again, I think to me we need to get back to Twitter is just social interactions.
Mm-hmm.
So the response should be, like you said, similar to the way social interaction responses are, which is shame. Shame is the response.
That's not the only one, though.
No, I didn't say it was the only one. But it's the one that's missing and that's causing a problem. There's no shame to saying something anonymous online that's repugnant and disgusting. That's the corrective mechanism in social environments everywhere else.
No, I mean it's one. It's not the one.
In a casual,
it's not the only one.
Which most of Twitter is just a casual social interaction.
Sure, yeah.
In every what other mechanism is there to stop people from saying awful things in a casual?
I think when you fucking are raising children and the kid says fuck, like you're like, hey kid, buddy, like you can shame him, but he's gonna internalize that message. Like you create a fucking.
Not always. There are useful lessons that can come out of that negative.
Yeah,
emotion.
Absolutely. Shame is useful. Sure.
Yeah, but you're using.
But a lot of the time,
it's a
blunt.
Mild
it's a blunt tool.
Do you think people would label saying the word "fuck" hate speech?
Huh?
Do you think
hate speech needs to be a little bit more directed?
No. That's what hate speech is like a political ideology. But that's what I'm saying. Like if a little kid acts like an asshole, I would pull him aside. I would say, hey, dude, this is not fucking cool, but here's why. And then you teach it, and then he's able to. And maybe this is only going to work for a certain amount of kids. But I think that's a better. But all right, this is like I'm kind of using like a evolutionary like Jean Piaget. Like you learn to play games and you iterate when you're a child and you're teaching a child. I think we should kind of have similar, like, because everybody still has that inner child in them. Everybody still has that kind of emotional.
Who's the parent?
We all have to be each other. Like everybody has an ego parent and the child. Like that's what we have to. We have to recognize that we're dealing with both.
I'm just picking up on something really interesting that might be a generational difference here.
Sure.
Now I'm closer to you in age, but I think in terms of how I've used the internet, I might be a little bit closer. I used it probably when I was way too young, so I kind of have this presumption about internet use that when you're on the internet, you are anonymous, always. And I don't know how. I mean, you might think about the internet way there, and you might know that you can certainly use the internet anonymously.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't. Did you have a MySpace account when you were younger?
Yeah, well, like Facebook and like I would, whenever I was using social media, it was tied to my identity in real life.
I started using the internet and communicating with people on the internet years before.
Yeah, you guys are like more Reddit kind of people, right? Like you guys are communicate anonymously. Like you're not going to see the people you're talking to online in real life.
The reason for that, I think the reason maybe the reason
that's what I'm saying, dude. Like you wouldn't. That's what this is really cool. Like you wouldn't. Like if I was your friend and I fucked up and you're like just gonna like shame the fuck out of me, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm not gonna be your fucking friend anymore because I didn't know.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying is the ignorance and the intent is extremely important. Right. If I was being an asshole and you actually don't like me, and like I'm doing it on purpose to hurt people, then like that's the correct response. But if I'm being ignorant because I'm fucking ignorant, that's not my fault, and the shame is not gonna help. It's gonna be like, wow, you're a fucking dick. You really overreacted. Fuck you.
I just have a hard time believing that with like 10 slots that they would that's what would end up in there. I
think it would happen a lot of the time. And being iterating on Facebook and the multiplicity of people using it, I think there's going to be a lot of people.
I would never do that on Facebook.
Or
I would
Twitter,
only do
whatever.
that on Twitter.
It's the same thing.
Well, no.
In terms of users.
They're way different.
In terms of users.
You know all your Facebook friends. You don't comment on things publicly really in Facebook. Twitter.
No, I don't really use Facebook. So.
Twitter is a goddamn cesspool.
There's a really
Twitter,
important distinction to make.
Yeah.
Because part of the reasons that Twitter exists and coexists alongside Facebook, which coexists alongside Instagram, it's not just like, the layout of the website that makes these things popular. Part of it is that like they blur the lines between identity and anonymity at different places, right? That's why like there's a platform which is Reddit, and there's a platform which is Facebook or MySpace or WhatsApp. Is they all kind of serve very mildly different purposes in terms of how you view yourself and how you view your identity and how true you want it to be a reflection of you, the Matt Dillon or Jim Zembo or Vincent Wisehuhn that has an ID and a social security number and is trying to get a job someday. That LinkedIn would be like the most dry, like realistic.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's like
realistic version of that.
Yeah, it's like your interview, like it's like your interview
right,
self
yeah.
captured. Yeah.
they're
But
getting like the biggest trouble though.
Really, LinkedIn?
Yeah, I forget what they
Why
did.
people
They
are so
got
PC
big
there.
trouble recently.
Yeah.
What?
I'm
Keep
totally
going.
probably
I feel like
selling
you're
people's
coming
data.
to a good point.
Well, yeah. I mean, this was kind of like
that was a good point.
This was kind of an anomaly, like 10 or 15 years ago, when social media became like a boom, and we just forgot about it. But like, part of the reason that like some parents, right, had different rules about when their kids could go on the internet or use forums, and when social media came out, like MySpace and Facebook, some parents, the trigger for parenting happened at different times for different parents. Some parents didn't want their kids using the internet at all. Some parents were okay with their kids using chat rooms and forums. So you were conditioned to think of the internet as a place to troll, not to be serious. Some parents introduced their children to the internet with MySpace. Which, like, to me was always nuts. I was like, oh, why would like 7th or 8th graders want MySpace pages? To me, I was like, that's toxic. Part of that's because I was raised that way. My parents decided, no, this isn't healthy, and I'm not going to let my kids do this. That's true. But that, I think part of your stance on whether or not you think Facebook is good or bad for you, or if Twitter needs to be regulated, or if we should implement like a social experiment type of policy, like a wall of shame, I think is probably in some way rooted to your experiences with your introduction to identity on the internet. One of the things I brought up last week, and I feel really bad that you weren't here, is I talked, and you thought this was really interesting, but what happened when one of the reasons corporations became really powerful on social media, like I'll use Facebook as an example, right? Now you can go on Facebook and find a page for almost any culture or company or movement, right? Yeah. And we associate those companies or those entities with certain identities, with ideologies, with literal thoughts, with personalities. Was when you started using Facebook, you just assumed that you attached a personality to a Facebook page who was some person, right? And it used to be the point of Facebook when it started was you couldn't make an account until you verified it with like an edu email address. So every person
it's tied to your real world.
It was tied to the real world, and your Facebook page was supposed to be a reflection of who you were in real life. So that things you posted online were supposed to have some weight to your actual reputation. That stopped happening after. I mean, obviously, like they got rid of the rule that you had to have a college email address to make a Facebook account. And slowly over time, how your identity was represented in digital media like evolved. Right? Do you remember? You remember like in high school, when people first started using Facebook, it was very straightforward. You posted your name. And you could post a picture of yourself.
Bullshit of whatever you're doing.
But it was like you posted a picture of yourself, and that was you. It's like you'd go like I'm I'm Vince. Here's my Facebook page. This is me. You can see there's a picture of me.
Yeah.
And there was always that one weirdo after a while who would just like post a picture of like an anime person or whatever, and you go like, who the fuck? Why are you trolling on Facebook? Just use your real picture of yourself, please. Yeah. They would like, but their serious Facebook was just like a bunch of memes and cartoons or whatever.
That's
and
normal
you go like, oh, this is weird. This is really weird.
That's true.
But then just more and more people just started trolling or just experimenting with their identity. Like they wouldn't make their gender public on Facebook, or they would use a picture of something else as their Facebook page, some art that they made, or they would change. Like I changed my name to Vincent Gottfried just because I was like, I don't like my last name anymore. I don't want to. I'm thumbing my nose at my parents for a little bit. I'm being rebellious. I'm changing my name, even though I still wanted people to think I was me. I wanted people to know that they were the same Vince they knew in real life on that Facebook page. And what happened was, once you realized that you could create an identity for anything, all of a sudden, the Libertarian Party has a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Moon Pies has a Facebook page. Ford and GM and any company, any corporation could have an identity that we just joked around. We just pretended they were real people, and now Wendy's is like throwing shade at people on social media, right? We do love it.
It's pretty cool.
But it's we've given literal personas to things that would otherwise
be inanimate.
Be inanimate.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what is making that is when I just watch you guys go back and forth for like 20 or 25 minutes on this one idea, and I think there's a couple there isn't a total meeting of the minds here, because I think you have a couple different conceptions on like what it means to be represented on social media. What does it mean to have your name plastered somewhere publicly for millions of people to see?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want it known that my Facebook profile picture is Tom from MySpace. Just wanted to tell everybody that.
That's fine.
Generation. I have no idea who that is.
He was everybody's friend.
Oh yeah. Okay. I was like right after MySpace.
Yeah, that was like a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
Okay.
You old ass.
Just felt the need
old man.
to share
That's
that.
okay. That's funny.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna.
Nice.
I'll let you have the last word on it, but I'm gonna say what I think, and then we'll be done with this.
Yeah.
So
what's our time right now?
We're pretty far into it.
Half hours.
We're pretty far into it right now.
We started at like 7:30, I think.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah. It's a little past, right?
Oh, Mom.
10:10.
So what I want to say is, I do think you're right that it would be abused. And I'm not sure. Like, then I started thinking, would you need this is shameful, or this is hate speech, and this is not hate speech in order to combat it? Because as it got popular, you'd need people to be able to respond to it. So it does get really complicated really fast.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of what I'm trying to deal with is different than what you're trying to deal with. Because what I'm trying to deal with is, I see there is genuinely terrible, awful things being said on the platform. And there's a very loud minority who Twitter is scared of, who think that this is just widespread like this is actually a huge problem. Yeah. And that by Twitter allowing it to happen, it somehow is like igniting it in other people. And I would like for those people to see, no, most of us agree this is disgusting and awful. We don't want to silence it. We'd rather just support the person.
So you're talking about like liberal reporters, basically? Like those people are
There's
like
a lot
really
of people on Twitter who and Twitter's constantly being, a lot of these companies ad companies too, are constantly being protested by these people saying you're enabling what's the word they use? I forget the word. Right? There's a different word where they say Trump does it all the time. They like
you're making it okay. You're just giving them courage.
Yeah, like opening the door for him.
Yeah,
enabling's fine, but you know what I'm talking about.
Enabling's a good word. Yeah,
and I just, the way they speak, it's like you really think that like the world is full of these white supremacists? Like that it's there's somehow huge problem. Yeah. Obviously they're a problem.
Yeah, that's
and I think they're a worse problem the way they're handling it, because I would rather, I feel so bad for the people who I've seen the victim of this shit, and I'd rather them feel like, wow, everybody actually agree, like everybody thinks what they said is terrible. Yeah. I just would rather that be the response. Okay. That's my coffee house metaphor. The best thing for that person is everybody silently has their back, and that person knows, wow, I'm actually, I felt really bad. I felt ashamed. Usually,
sure.
If people who espouse to hate speech were shamed at least a little bit, it would be empowering to the victims, those victims of the hate speech.
If there was a way to have a kind of shame online that you would have in person, that's all. I don't know how you do it, but I do think.
I
like,
agree.
think it already happens,
I'm not
bro.
convinced the mechanism is perfect either.
I don't think it does happen. It just.
Bro, what like the feminists who like call you a cisgender white male, like they're shaming you because of your identity.
But the difference is that like right now Twitter's mechanism is that
Actually, that's a perfect. Can I respond
comments?
to that?
But comments that become popular are the ones that thrive, and all these comments can be a rebuttals of other controversial comments. There's no real good or bad weight. It's just whatever gets the most attention is the most popular on Twitter right now, and there's no good or bad value assigned.
So
to
people like that who you just said, like saying I'm a cisgender white male, I'm an asshole for being alive.
Yeah.
So
wouldn't you want to be able to shame that comment and see how many people think that it's wrong?
They are shaming me. They are shaming me by retweeting it to all their followers who don't see anything in response to it.
Yeah.
And I am being shamed. But like he said, if I could say this is shameful behavior, like especially somebody who retweeted or something, who said something awful on top of it, if there was a way to say this is shameful, or at the very least, if they tried to call me shameful and nobody and like almost no one voted for it, it might be a little bit of an awakening, like a little bit like, wow, I'm in a bubble. And what I think is awful is actually pretty mundane and normal.
Yeah.
Like there's
okay. Sure.
I kind of want to introduce that.
Yeah.
That sort of, like I really feel like one more thing, and I want to know if you agree with this.
Wait, can I just respond to that? I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
I just don't know how to do it because you're right.
I don't know how to do it either. That's what I'm saying.
It would totally be abused. You're
right.
right.
You just make it more and more bubbles. Like I think that would work there, but like also like are you like you're operating at the same level? You're fighting fire with fire. Yeah. Shame with shame. So how do you transcend that? Maybe you do. Like maybe it does work that you prick them enough times where it wakes them up and they're like, oh, I have to change my behavior. But
I think
there's better ways. I think there's more conducive ways to doing that.
I just want there to
waking
be
somebody up out of an ideological bubble.
If you're in a place, any place, with a group of people, and the majority thinks something's awful, no words need to be said. Yeah. It's just felt.
Yeah, you go to Germany and you talk loud on a bus.
That doesn't happen online because you're so in your bubble that you don't realize how awful what you're saying is. Like you don't realize how shameful what you're saying is, or like. So I just don't know how you get that.
Well, I think the people you're describing are people who are not, to your point, tethered to like real life. Because like if I tweet something awful online, like I know like in real life I would never say that. So I'm gonna maintain integrity with my own way of being in the world. In the real world, online. I'm not going to, like, anything I post online, I would say in real life.
I don't think most people behave that way online.
But unfortunately...
that's a fucking problem then.
But
that's a big-ass problem.
Unfortunately, whether it's a problem or not, the reality is Twitter incentivizes the worst. That's why Donald Trump is president, and he says awful things on Twitter, and he's one of the most popular Twitter accounts out there.
Yeah.
And it's the same everywhere. What is wanted right now is outrage. People want something to be outraged at. And I wish there was a global way to see, wow, what people are actually outraged with, I agree with. We all pretty much agree on what's actually outrageous. But then these people are like, well, yeah, of course that's outrageous, but what about all this stuff? And it's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you're in a minority. That's what I was kind of saying about the parliamentary system is like if we had those people all in a fucking space and everybody could say, oh yeah, us majority listening to these extremists, maybe they have one good idea, but they're fucking extremists. Most of what they say is gobbledygook. It's kind of the similar idea.
Do you I kind of see it bleeding out into reality though. Yeah. So like if I go to the wine bar or somewhere and I see two people who are those types of people,
I just ignore them.
Right. I do too.
I'm
do too.
I'm not going to address
they feel very comfortable talking openly about stuff that I think is like absurd. I think is absolutely absurd.
Well, can you give me an example?
Let me think of something that let's say intersectional feminism, some aspects of intersectional feminism, or I'm trying to think of a real world example. Like you could say things that are, to me, outrageous claims. Things like men and women aren't different. You know, that's an outrageous claim to make. To me, and the vast majority of people, I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of people would be like, that's absurd. Of course we're different.
Yeah.
Like, of course we're different.
Yeah.
But they feel totally comfortable now saying these outrageous things, but
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable saying I disagree,
Yeah.
or just saying men and imagine I feel uncomfortable going to a bar and saying I think men and women are a little different.
I think the problem with that is that like we as a society haven't internalized, or we haven't agreed on the difference between like, you know, men and women are different. And then that's a statement that men and women are equal.
Yeah.
I agree.
Different statements right now, and we haven't come up. Nobody's comfortable with wrestling with both of those.
We're
statements.
we're intellectualizing it. I just think just on a social emotional level, like you got very animated at that. Clearly, you're having an emotional reaction to that hypothetical situation. So those people are prepared for that. You're the exact person. You're a fucking fly going into Venus flytrap.
This is different. I'm in my own home. I'm in a private situation. It's not how I would react.
Okay, but still, like that. All right, so maybe you're being more genuine here, and maybe you would have more of a persona, a public persona.
My emotional reaction is more to the fact that I feel uncomfortable saying what I know the majority to believe, and they feel perfectly comfortable saying something that most of us think is absolutely insane.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we want though? What do we want to change their mind? Right. We want them to.
I would rather it be.
You want them to like believe what you think to be true, right? You want to like move towards truth.
I mean,
right?
ideally, but my reaction is more to the fact that I feel uncomfortable and they don't. You know, like, so it's almost like they're allowed to shame me if I speak up, but I'm not allowed to shame them.
I think the difference here though is not to pick on you. I think what you really need to do, need to do. I mean, because I've struggled with this like a little bit, and I've gotten to a point where it's just like I'd rather be in control of my own emotions when I hear people say stuff that I think is ideologically crazy, especially in terms of like sexuality or feminism or what have you.
And I am.
Right, yeah. I agree with you. But I think I've gotten to a point too. It's like and deleting social media has helped with this. But it's when I hear things that are disagreeable with people. Yeah, you know, I have a much easier time confronting people when I go, hey, I disagree with you, and I just disagree, because I don't have to worry about repercussions in social media, and I know that their arguments are just come from a social media bubble and aren't really wide.
Maybe,
True,
perhaps, yeah.
I agree with you.
But it's definitely bleeding out in real life.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It seems weird to me that I know that even if the entire, like, if I've had, like, said, like, if I say something that is, you know, not objectionable, like, we might disagree, and that's fine. I don't mind the disagreement. I like the disagreement, honestly. Maybe I'm wrong. One of my favorite things is to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
It gives me a chance to rethink everything.
Yeah.
But if you're shaming me for disagreeing with you,
yeah,
and I know everyone around me agrees with me,
yeah,
and they're not saying shit because they're afraid of being shamed, that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it makes me think we do need a little bit. There needs to be a little bit of like, what your opinion isn't shameful. What's shameful is that you think you're immune from shame, that anything that I say that disagrees with you is unfair, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, can I try to describe what I'm seeing? Like, so you're being deprived of an opportunity to learn. You're being deprived of your free will by that shame.
Totally.
So in return, instead of returning fire with fire, that's where I'm trying to say, instigate and try to work on it. And this is not fucking ideal. I'm not going to say it's easier or it's going to happen overnight. But instead of fighting with fire and saying, basically your emotions are saying, I got taken away. My opportunity to learn got taken away. So I'm going to take away this person's opportunity to learn. That's what that shame does.
No, I don't think that's what I want.
I know, but that's what I don't think that's what you want either. I think what you want is to both have a meeting of the minds, a dialogue, and move towards truth. I think you want to learn from them, and you would hope that they would want to learn from you, but that's not what
I want is the social repercussions to incentivize that. So if
incentivize what? The learning?
The learning, yeah.
Yes.
Not to agree with me. The learning that
that's not what I'm saying
either. It's the thing, like, people might agree with me, and that's not what I care about. What I care about is the only thing that makes them feel like they can't say anything that they agree with me is the shaming.
Yeah.
Right? But it shouldn't be that way. It should be the second you start shaming someone for saying something perfectly normal and fine, the repercussion should be that everybody's like, relax.
Yeah.
Like, just relax. You're being absurd. But nobody seems to want to do that in one direction.
Okay, so that doesn't seem like necessarily shame to me. That's more of like a cautioning.
It would feel like shame to them. It would feel like shame to them. It absolutely. I mean, that's shame is just not being accepted by the people around you. That's all it is.
I think no. That's an idea. Like you're talking about their ideas though, and their emotions behind the ideas. I don't think like if you told somebody to relax and chill, like you're directing the conversation.
Sometimes that just makes things a little bit worse.
Yeah. No, I think they can make it better. I mean, if you're like, hey man, like,
in my experience,
I don't know.
In my experience, he's right. The second I say you need to relax, it's like,
especially.
Are you telling me to not?
Yeah.
You're what is the word? What is the word?
Tell me how to feel or yada yada yada.
No. You're
belittling my emotions or.
Nope. You're something
lampooning?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But
I don't know. It's bull, especially if you're staying on the topic of feminism.
Gaslighting me.
There's a lot of
you're gaslighting me.
Yeah.
Which usually when someone accuses me of gaslighting them, they're gaslighting me.
What's that mean?
But
that's what I'm saying. You're just fighting fire with fire. And you're building the fire.
It's when you make someone feel like you're making me feel like I'm crazy, and it's like, well, you kind of are being crazy. Like, there's a little bit of that. Like,
but do you see how you're building a fire? You're fighting the fire with fire. And you're not actually transcending anything. You're just creating more of the same.
Oh, I'm starting to agree with Matt now.
You see that though? Do you see that? You're operating on the same level as them.
I'm not telling you how I actually respond. I'm telling you what's happening internally in me.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to describe, man. Like you're not advancing.
Can I summarize this argument?
Sure. Yeah,
all right, because we got to wrap it up, and I think we've done a great job.
Yeah.
Wait, no, you just attacked me. I have to respond to that.
I'm not really attacking you. Listen, I think for the most part, your ideas are really good.
Yeah.
And here's the observation I'm going to take away from this whole thing: is that right now on social media, there is no direct mechanism that is designed to exhibit shame. There really isn't. All you can do.
I think the core of this argument is that you think that shame is 100% bad.
No, dude. I've said
I don't think he thinks
times.
that. I do not think Matt
I've said
thinks
multiple
that.
times that I think it's useful.
I think Matt believes that putting shame on a public record that gets displayed to the entire population or of people using social media is a bad idea.
I think it's a blunt tool.
Yeah, and I don't.
But it's necessary.
And I think
so. If I okay, you got let's say you got a 22-year-old young man. You're a 22-year-old young man. You must know guys like this who are just aggressive as fuck. And they behave like a fucking animal in public. And what does everybody do? They shame the fuck out of them because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
You know, the bouncer comes and makes sure the physical thing happens, and then everybody out there shames
That's what we did at the bar. Were
right?
you there? Where the guy was in a fight?
Why should it be different for anybody else? Why is it like what if you're?
Because
it's a different kind of aggression.
But all right. So this is a very masculine male energy. It's a masculine male way. There's a compassionate side of things that I just think you're not appreciating. And I think
I'm saying that's the feminine aspect of aggression, and the proper response to aggression is shame. No, that whole like.
Guys, we're doing it again.
What? I know.
We're doing it again.
You might have to stop and just like.
I might have to stop you guys because this is great. I think
I think I've made my point. I don't think shame's all bad, man.
I think
you're fine with shame with the physically masculine aggressive. But what about the relationally aggressive female? Can you shame that?
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what's happening.
I see it a lot. I don't know.
On social media.
Are you like talking about like female women? Like
it doesn't have to be women. Men do it too.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of aggression.
That type of energy.
Yes. I wouldn't even say that.
I don't deal with that because I think it's like trivial. Like I don't
even think it's a majority women doing it in my experience. I think it's usually men.
Yeah. Well, that's what because it'll always like I think. Like Jordan Peterson says that like there's always potential for violence between men, so that's why I don't take that energy seriously because it's like, dude, you're being childish. Like you're like
I don't either. That's why I think shame is the perfect response.
I think
you just shamed them. You're being an idiot. That's shaming them.
But I don't have the same emotional. Like you're playing on the same level as them emotionally. That's my.
There are definitely instances where like trying to shame someone can. You start playing a one-up game and it spirals.
No, I'm not talking about.
It's a shame.
I'm talking about
race.
when you have an outburst in a restaurant and the whole restaurant looks at you. Yeah. That's shaming them.
Yeah.
Why isn't it the same for other situations?
You mean specifically other situations in social media,
or when they bleed out into reality? Like when people say things that on social media they don't get any shame. You know, what Twitter reinforces it.
I think we have been kind of socially conditioned to like accept some of the narratives we hear on social media in real life. You're right. That's the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's all to some extent. That's kind of the natural progression of society. And I think over time it will evolve, and some of it will correct itself when people realize, oh, this is a little cringy to say out loud. You know, it's not. It's not going to
But
be perfect.
I don't think they'll know it's cringy until people react as though they're cringing.
And well, again, over time, people will correct to that. I think, again, as more and more people start to realize that their behavior has been impacted by social media, people will be better at speaking what they feel in real life.
I'm a big believer in the whole Jonathan Haidt thing. You know, we're social animals.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't do things to be good. We do things to be liked.
And
we do things to be liked.
I agree.
Dude, all right, you should read this book by Franz de Waal. It's all about like the evolution of morals.
You should read The Coddling of the American Mind.
I will.
And The Righteous Mind. The Righteous Mind is better.
Yeah. Is that by him?
Mind, yeah.
Jonathan? Okay,
The Righteous Mind is a very good book. It's
dude, but I think like you are taking like a very intellectual approach to this. Whereas like I'm kind of I think we both have valid points, but it seems like I'm taking more of an emotional approach, like what would actually happen emotionally in somebody's reaction of your ideas.
I think you've both made very, very good points. I think you've both done a very good job of being respectful.
You wanted to stop fucking talking.
Yeah, I'm ready to end this episode.
Shut the
Listen,
fuck up.
no, you guys have done. I think you guys have done. We had a lot of good points.
Yeah,
I think
it was really cool.
Anyone who listens to this episode and picks a side has been challenged very hard.
Yeah, I think we both became smarter for sure.
You've both become very smarter. I've certainly become much smarter.
Yeah, glad.
Sweden, everybody. This is
total
Switzerland. And Sweden. Sweden is a whole like, I don't want any competition.
I think, but yeah, for the most, you guys agree on some really fundamental things, and you both have some interesting perspectives.
We fundamentally agree on the goal.
Yeah,
we just disagree on the
means?
method.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's just I think it's a degrees. Like we're disagreeing on the degree. Like I said, I don't think shame is not useful, and I think it can be useful. It seems to me that you're using it to like a 90% degree of all the time.
I'm just saying.
That's where I'm going to stop talking.
What I'm saying is it's the thing that's missing.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's the thing that's always been there and is not grown.
Not on social media. The internet's distorted shame in a weird way. Sometimes the internet is anonymous.
Right, and I think it's just bleeding out into reality. That lack of shame to think like it's starting to scare me that I feel like what you used to be able 5-10 years ago, what you said, people would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Maybe I think college campuses are a good example of places where you could say things now that are just totally like left field, but you could say them on a college campus, and it's like
snap at them.
It's like normal, yeah. All right.
Fucking snap at them.
Well, cool. This is cool. This will be a lot. This is probably the most intense debate.
This
I've
is
seen
the most. It's
so
mostly
far.
my fault. You brought
up a big thought.
That energy.
It brought the energy. I totally brought
the energy.
I'm telling you, I'm fucking angry and scared. So like, I admit it. You know, I am.
Thankfully, I haven't been paying attention to the news this week. So
it's not the news, dude.
I don't feel that emotion.
Like I have lots of friends who are software engineers. You know, people who know what shit's going on, and we've been talking for years about this.
Yeah.
It's just. It scares me that it's actually at that point.
Yep.
And it just makes me nervous. And it's coming out.
Well, we'll all sleep on this and hopefully have some more rational choice words to talk about it next week.
Cool.
I think we're going to conclude episode 4 of What Does That Even Mean?
Peace.